This is Brother Ron, and welcome to We All Be News Radio and TV, the news-free Dixie for the 21st century. Yes. Good evening, testing. This is We All Be. Testing for We All Be. You and me. We all be together. This is We All Be. Boys and girls, scholars and laymen. Just testing out. It is midnight. It is around midnight. The loneliest time. The loneliest month. When I went to see the Obama portraits up in D.C. at the National Portrait Gallery, in Washington, D.C. Do yourselves a favor. If you are in the DMV, not getting your driver's license, and when I say DMV, I mean the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area, do yourself a favor and check out the Obama portraits, the one done by Kehinde Wiley of President Barack Obama, and the one done by the sister from B-More by the way of Georgia. I believe her name is Amy Sherrill. Do yourself a favor, because I actually had the honor and pleasure of going to the National Portrait Gallery in Washington, D.C. to see the portraits. And like I said in some of my social media posts, the Michelle Obama portrait actually looks better in person. It's kind of, I call it the Wendy Williams effect, because my mom and sister and other folks have told me that Wendy Williams actually look better in person. She looks way better in person than she does on TV for some reason. Like people say, well, Wendy Williams look better in person than on TV. And my mom, my sister told me this when they met her at the mall in Memphis, at Wolf Chase Galleria, I believe, in Cordova, which is Memphis. But do yourself a favor and go there, because this is why the media is so tricky. It's like Jedi mind tricks. Those are not the official White House portraits. So you gotta understand, I believe the National Portrait Gallery has been in existence for 50 years. I think they're celebrating their 50th year anniversary this year. The White House portraits are the official portraits for the administration. That's the ones that are shown in the White House. Now, if you go into the We All Be TV archives, I did an interview with Brother Semi Knox. He's a world-class portrait painter. He's a black man from Alabama who was the first African American to ever be commissioned to do the official White House portrait of a president. He did the portrait for Bill Clinton. He also did the First Lady Hillary Clinton's portrait for the White House. So Semi Knox, that's Black history, y'all. That's living Black history. You know, Semi Knox is still around. He did the official Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall portrait, and a couple of other people, prominent people as well. So check out the Semi Knox interview I did about 10 years ago, actually, on We All Be Radio. And I'm just trying to give people a chance to come in. I haven't checked the chat room yet. I'll check out the chat room to say my hellos. And also I'll be posting links in the chat room to kind of give y'all the receipts. That's the popular thing. People want to bring receipts. Cite your work. What's your source? And what I'm trying to get y'all to understand is that 2018 is the year of the thought provocateur. Shout out to Baba Dick Gregory's family. They had Dick Gregory Week up in Prince George's County, Maryland. It opened up with a week-long exhibit of personal belongings and awards and other artifacts connected to Baba Dick Gregory's legacy. So it was up there for a week. I believe it still is up to the end of this month. You know, Black History Month is actually the shortest month of the year. Even in a leap year, it's still too damn short, y'all. Too short. Black History Month is too short. Player, Oak Town, the town. Okay, I love Too Short. But anyway, I don't know if it's still up, but it was at the Oxon Hill Manor in Prince George's County. They had a week-long exhibition that might still be up. And shout out to Sister A.L.L. Gregory for representing with her Daughter of the Struggle play. Phenomenal black woman in her own right. Did an extraordinary job with a one-woman play that was at Harmony Hall in Prince George, in what do you call that place? Fort Washington. And at Harmony Hall, they also had a World War I black soldiers exhibit as well. That was very unique. And like I said, Black history is every day. You cannot have American history, you cannot have world history without including the stories, the narratives, the triumphs, the struggles, the tragedies of the black folk. And there's a couple things I want to bring to attention. Like, I'm going to be talking about the Black Panther. I'm going to be bringing up things that have not been brought up in previous discussions in social media. I've been, doing my research and also been looking at other people's videos, and people make some very good videos out there. There's some very good videos about the Black Panther movie, which is historic. It's like one of the greatest movies of all time, whether you believe it or not. It's one of the highest grossing films already. Within 7 days, it made over $500 million worldwide. They had a $200 million budget. This movie has already made its money back, and I don't doubt by the end of the year it'll be well past $1 billion. I believe it already has the greatest opening of any Marvel Studio movie. The Marvel Studio this year marks their 10-year anniversary of their existence, and they started out with the Iron Man franchise. But in their 10-year run, I believe they have produced over 18 movies. This is the largest opening for any of their movies. This is bigger than the classic Avengers movie that came out in 2012, because that was a game changer to me. That Avenger movie from 2012. I used to collect comic books back in the day, but I was not like a nerd. I was a nerd, don't get me wrong, but I was not into all the narratives. My favorite superhero was, of course, Batman. You can't go wrong with Batman. But also, that's groundbreaking. That's Black history. That's cinema history. That's history. So Black Panther, congratulations, Ryan Coogler, Chadwick Boseman, Michael B. Jordan, Sister Lupita, Dana, all y'all, job well done. And let me say something about the Black Panther movie. It's some Black Panther trivia. I don't know. I got this from a valid source, a trusted source. Speaking of Dick Gregory, from my understanding, the people associated with that movie approached Baba Dick Gregory to play the role of Zuri. That's right, boys and girls, scholars and laymen. You heard it from me. Brother Ron heard the artivist first. And in exclusive, that the people who produced Black Panther actually approached Baba Dick Gregory to play the role of Zuri, which was played by Forrest Whitaker. Great job. Shout out to Forrest Whitaker. Did a great job playing Zuri. But they approached Baba Dick Gregory to play Zuri before they approached Forrest Whitaker, from my understanding. And Baba Dick Gregory had to turn that down because of health reasons, because they was going to do a lot of traveling to the motherland. They did some traveling to Africa. And Baba Dick Gregory, because of his health at the time, could not make that trek to Africa. Could you imagine the dimensions that would have been added with Baba Dick Gregory in that movie? You know, as Zuri. I mean, it would have been wow. You know, that would have been amazing to see Baba Dick Gregory as Zuri. I mean, the movie is great by itself, but also I'm here to talk about some criticisms of some of the messages within the movie, because there's so many things going on in Black Panther that really is going to need its own academic class to dissect it and its implications and what it holds for the future for our people and for the world, because it's a game changer and it should be treated as such. So it should be studied. And what I'm attempting to do is to bring up some things that might have went over people's heads, or people might not have been paying attention to, because there's so much stuff to keep you distracted, not only in the movie but in life as well. And I think it's important that we support Black media, that we support media that advocates for Black people priorities first and foremost. I just came out the road. I've been on the road for a whole week, driving all around the country, trying to get these news stories, disseminate these points of views to our people out there. I want to thank all the people who have been supporting the We All Be movement. Those of you who listen to the podcast, who share it with your networks, those of you who donate to the movement, because we need donations, we need support. Like I said, I'm in a hotel now, traveling around the country in my jalopy known as Frank, because we doing it our way, my way, our way. Trying to get these exclusive stories, trying to bring out this information, because the mainstream media don't consider you a priority, even though it's because Black folks coming together to support this movie that Black Panther became a success story. Yes, it's a comic book movie. Yes, white folks love comic books, but don't underestimate the power of Black solidarity, because you best believe that Barack Obama would not have been a two-term president with almost 100% Black support, because Black power is unity and solidarity. White power is divide and conquer. This system is based on white power, but the universe is based on Black power, because the universe is about just us. It's justice. It's universal. So you gotta start thinking like that. The power of words, the power for you to manifest a different reality. The Black Panther is a paradigm shifter. It's a game changer. But also I want our people to understand something about knowledge of self. It's not the school job to teach you knowledge of self. Knowledge of self should be taught in the home. But the home is broken right now. The village is out of order right now. It's time to get reordered in the village. It's time for the home to become whole again. And that's why it's important to have these conversations about, you know, movies, about culture. Because whoever controls the culture, they control the narrative, they control the outcome, they control the future, and they control the destiny. So, with that said, speaking of Black solidarity, the biggest market for the Black Panther movie from last week was none other than Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis was the game changer. Memphis had the largest buy-in for Black Panther. Let me see. I'm gonna read this Bloomberg News article if I can find it. But if you like what you heard from Mr. Hurd so far, please subscribe. Please like this video. I hope it's coming in loud and clear. I'm gonna check in with the family, make sure everything is getting out there in terms. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Can you hear the words that are coming out of my mouth? So, how you like me now? You know, all that stuff. But I'm looking at the Memphis Business Journal, but I think it also was reported nationwide in the Bloomberg News organization, among others. Let me see. It says Memphis leads nation in Black Panther box office spike. This came out February 23rd, 2018. It was updated February 24th, 2018, and I'm gonna read it. Memphis played a big part of the record opening set by Black Panther last weekend. Bloomberg reported that opening weekend ticket sales in Memphis were 81% higher than the average opening weekend that movies experience here. With that figure, the city placed #1 in the country for moviegoer enthusiasm for Black Panther. Atlanta ranked #2 for percent increase in attendance versus the average, with ticket sales that were 56% higher than usual, followed by New Orleans, where ticket sales were 45% higher. Jeff Kaufman, Senior Vice President of Film at Memphis-based Malco Theaters Incorporated, said he was unsure how Bloomberg came up with their figures and so couldn't verify them. Bloomberg cited Black Panther distributor Walt Disney Company as the source of its data, but Kaufman confirmed that the number of screens the movie played on across the cinema chain was more than Malco had ever offered for any other film, including Star Wars. There was a lot of interest nationally, Kaufman said. There was a lot of interest locally. Malco made Black Panther tickets available for pre-purchase more than a week before the movie came out, which Kaufman said the company does for tentpole films such as Jurassic World and Star Wars. Black Panther made $242 million in domestic box office sales on 4,020 screens nationwide through President's Day, according to the industry site Box Office Mojo. The Marvel Studios film averaged more than $60,000 per screen. It was the 5th largest opening for any movie. Let me read that one more again. It was the 5th largest opening for any movie, Kaufman said. The 2nd largest opening for Marvel. The largest opening for an African American director. A lot of firsts. So I'm going to post this. This is out the Memphis Business Journal, but it's based its article on the Bloomberg article. So I'm going to post this stuff here, and we're going to talk about what I came to talk about that you see in a so-called clickbait title for this video. We're going to get to that because we need to talk about this. I love that the movie came out because it offers an opportune time for Sankofa. That is the looking back upon history so we could go forward into the future. This is Sankofa time. Because Black Panther was like another holiday for black people. Like Kwanzaa or MLK Day. You know. So I'm gonna post this in. I'm gonna look at the chat room, make sure everything's in line, that y'all can hear me loud and clear. I might read some of you all's comments or questions, and we'll see where we can go from there. But I want to thank you once again. You know, you could have been anywhere, but you out here listening to what I got to say about the Black Panther. And you know, people talking, man. I mean, there's so much to talk about, you know, from so many different viewpoints on this thing. I mean, it has something to offer for everybody, but I want us to understand the other stuff that a lot of us don't get to talk about because we don't study our history, because it's not taught in school. Like I said, the place you should learn about who you are and where you come from should be in the home, but our home is so screwed up, it's so dysfunctional right now, and a lot of it does with the system. It's like the Claudine effect. You know, you look at that movie Claudine from the 70s with Diane Carroll, with all those children. She meets this black man who's employed, played by James Earl Jones, but when the white lady, the social worker come around, the white woman social worker come around, this grown black man got to hide in the closet because Claudine can't have a strong black man around to be a model for her kids, and also to be her man. So, you know, this is deep. So y'all should check out Claudine if you've never seen that movie. And also, I want us to, and no, we support Black Panther, but I want to offer these other movies and TV shows for us to look at, to compare and contrast with the Black Panther movie. And you can do that at your own leisure. I think this should spark study groups. People should read the comics. I'm not getting paid by the Black Panther people to say these things, but I want to encourage folks to be their own best critical thinkers, because it's very important that we do that, especially in this day and age of all this. You know, there's so much stuff going on, so much noise. So it's very important that you develop your right black mind and your third eye, your God eye. I call it your God eye. Develop your God eye. You know, it's very important. So let me post this in the chat room. Let's say you're breaking up. Sound okay? You're breaking up a little. Sounds cracking. Sister Angie Jones said Black Panther was a great movie, but we cannot get complacent. Yeah, I always do backups on these things because I'm not sure how this stuff will come out when I do what I do. Yeah, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, though, all the same. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You fought too much kind, or you know, whatever Jay-Z said that thing, and I don't want to get distracted. Let me see. What's going on here? Okay, I posted that story, I believe. I did it post twice. Yeah, okay, I hear me now. That's the most important thing. Yeah, I'm trying to post something in the chat room. I'm having issues. Having issues with posting it. But anyway, I'll get to that later. I said that in the title, it's called MidnITe Black History Madness. llMonger is Malcolm X's grandson. Black Panther movie review. And y'all do know. Okay, you said we. Okay, thank you, love. I appreciate you can hear me. Y'all do know that February 21st, this past February 21st, marked the 53rd anniversary of the assassination of Malcolm X. You know, Malcolm X, iconic black history figure. Still in 2018, still pretty much misunderstood. Although we have all this information in the information age available at our fingertips, Malcolm X is still very much misunderstood in this day and age. And what I want to do to set the stage for what we're going to talk about tonight is read the actual obituary from the New York Times that came out the day after Malcolm was assassinated. And I'm going to read it. I'm going to slow down. I know I talk fast, but I'm going to make sure I read it at a certain pace. I want y'all to understand. This is what the white world thought of Malcolm X at the time of his death. Just 24 hours later, a day later. I got to do, because I'm not able to post in the chat room, but what I will do is I will post some of the links I wanted to post in the chat room, because my chat room is not acting right for me. I will post later on in my social media feeds. But I want to read the New York Times obituary or whatever at that time for Malcolm X on February 22nd, 1965. It's titled, Malcolm X shot to death at rally here. 3 other Negroes wounded. 1 is held in killing. I guess his name Peter Kiss, the author of this obituary or whatever you want to call it. This is New York Times, y'all. Like Dick Gregory said, check out the New York Times. Recognize. Malcolm X, the 39-year-old leader of a militant black nationalist movement, was shot to death yesterday afternoon at a rally of his followers in a ballroom in Washington Heights. Shortly before midnight, a 22-year-old Negro, Thomas Hagen, was charged with the killing. The police rescued him from the ballroom crowd after he had been shot and beaten. Malcolm, a bearded extremist, had said only a few words of greeting when a fusillade rang out. The bullets knocked him over backward. Pandemonium broke out among the 400 Negroes in the Audubon Ballroom at 166th Street and Broadway. As men, women, and children ducked under tables and flattened themselves on the floor, more shots were fired. Some witnesses said 30 shots had been fired. 3 weapons fired, according to the New York Times. The police said 7 bullets had struck Malcolm. 3 other Negroes were shot. About 2 hours later, the police said the shooting had apparently been a result of a feud between followers of Malcolm and members of the extremist group he broke with last year, the Black Muslims. However, the police declined to say whether Hagen is a Muslim. The medical examiner's office said early this morning that a preliminary autopsy showed Malcolm had died of multiple gunshot wounds. The office said the bullets of 2 different calibers, as well as shotgun pellets, had been removed from his body. One police theory was that as many as 5 conspirators might have been involved, 2 creating a diversionary disturbance. You know, that get your hand out of my pocket thing. Hagen was shot in the left thigh and his left leg was broken, apparently by kicks. He was under treatment in the Bellevue Hospital prison ward last night. Perhaps a dozen policemen were guarding him, according to the hospital's night superintendent. The police said they had found a cartridge case with 4 unused .45 caliber shells in his pocket. 2 other Negroes, described as apparent spectators by Assistant Chief Inspector Harry Taylor, in command of Manhattan North Uniform Police, also were shot. They were identified as William Harris, wounded seriously in the abdomen, and William Parker, shot in a foot. Both were taken to Columbia Presbyterian Medical Center, which is close to the ballroom. Captain Paul Glacier of the Police Department's Community Relations Bureau said early today that Hagen, using a double-barreled shotgun with shortened barrels and stock, had killed Malcolm X. Malcolm, a slim, reddish-haired 6-footer with a gift for bitter eloquence against what he considered white exploitation of Negroes, broke in March 1964 with the Black Muslim movement called the Nation of Islam, headed by Elijah Muhammad. A weapon described as a 12-gauge shotgun was found behind the ballroom stage, wrapped in a man's dark gray jacket. As Hagen fired at Malcolm, Captain Glacier said, Reuben Francis, a follower of Malcolm, drew a .45 caliber automatic pistol and shot Hagen in the leg. Francis, 33, of 371st East 179th Street, the Bronx, was charged with felonious assault and violation of the Sullivan Law. Records of the Federal Bureau of Investigation showed that Hagen's real name is Tamaj Hayer, the police said this morning. He was booked as Thomas Hagen. The FBI records showed that the suspect address was 347 Marshall Street, Paterson, New Jersey. He was arrested November 7, 1963. The records show in Passaic, for possession of stolen property. Sanford Gerlich, Assistant Chief Inspector in charge of the Police Central Office Bureau and squads, said at 5 p.m., not quite 2 hours after the shooting, that this is the result, it would seem, of a long-standing feud between the followers of Elijah Muhammad and the people who broke away from him, headed by Malcolm X. At 7:30 p.m., Chief of Detectives Philip J. Walsh, who interrupted a vacation to join the hunt for the assassins, predicted a long, drawn-out investigation. I know it's kind of dragging, folks, but I mean, think about what's going on. Police say they don't know what's going on, but they said that the Muslims did it. Allegedly, the followers of Elijah Muhammad killed Malcolm X, supposedly. They found this gun wrapped up in a gray dart jacket behind the stage. Think about what's going on right now with the narrative, how they're assembling the narrative around what happened to Tupac and Biggie. Think about what they're doing right now with all these documentaries coming out, these movies concerning the deaths of Tupac and Biggie. How the narrative has changed over 20 years. It's worth looking at how the narrative has changed, has morphed into something else over 20 years. Now think about the 53 years since the death of Malcolm X, how much the narrative has changed and morphed into something else. Malcolm told his bodyguards not to have any guns on them during that day. He told them not to check anybody coming in to the Audubon. Normally, Malcolm would have about 2 or 3 dozen police officers, not him himself, but the New York Police Department would have 2 to 3 dozen police officers around Malcolm X at his speaking engagements and rallies at the Audubon. He had no such protection that day. But yet, as I read earlier, his assumed assassin had about 2 dozen police officers protecting him at the hospital. So think about that. And also, the chief bodyguard for Malcolm X was Eugene Roberts, who was undercover NYPD. And this is the guy that ends up setting up Tupac's mama, Afeni Shakur, and the Panther 21. Look up Eugene Roberts, Panther 21, all that stuff. Like I said, I want y'all to research this information on your own. Don't expect nobody to spoon feed you things. But I just want to share this to let you know that as some things change, some things remain the same. COINTELPRO is still going strong. I just want y'all to know that. Because look how they're trying to say, they're trying to pit one group against the other, but yet they're saying they're investigating what's actually happening, but they're already saying that the Muslims did in Malcolm X. So what they're trying to do is start a war. Just like after Tupac got killed, you know, people say it was a Southside Crips that did it. Then all that stuff going on, the gang wars that happened in the days following the death of Tupac in Compton. And we still don't understand what went on with that. But a lot of folks got killed over there. And we still trying to pick up the pieces. But anyway, let me read some more of this. I'm gonna read some more. I think it's important I read the whole thing, because a lot of times we don't, like I said, like you see people got short attention spans, I know that, but at the same time, I think it's important just to read this. Muslim denies involvement. James X, New York spokesman for the Black Muslims, denied that his organization had anything to do with the killing. Just 1 week before the slaying, Malcolm was bombed out of the small brick home in East Elmhurst, Queens, where he had been living. James X suggested that Malcolm had set off the firebombs himself to get publicity. Assemblyman Percy Sultan, Malcolm's lawyer, said the murdered leader had planned to disclose at yesterday's rally the names of those who were trying to kill him. Mr. Sultan added that Malcolm had taken to carrying a pistol because he feared for his life and had notified the police by telephone that he was doing so even though he did not have a permit. Assistant Chief Inspector Taylor, however, said Malcolm was unarmed when he was shot. Chief Walsh said he believed proper action was taken on all consideration of protection for Malcolm, and many of our requests in this connection were turned down. Okay, I just told y'all that normally Malcolm, he didn't ask for it. They'll have about 2 or 3 dozen police outside or around the Audubon Ballroom when he would normally speak and have his organization meetings. But that day, the police was nowhere to be found. Just like you look at what happened to Dr. King. When Dr. King used to come to Memphis, he would have all black Memphis police security detail. The last time he came to Memphis, he had no police protection. Had none. The dude that used to organize Dr. King's Memphis police protection, his name is Captain Jerry Williams. He was one of the first black officers in Memphis history in the modern era. I think he was hired back in 1948. But he's 91 years young now. But normally it would fall on him to organize Memphis black police officers to protect Dr. King. And Dr. King did not have that protection. And we all know what happened April 4th, 1968. So you see how Malcolm would normally have all these police around. But on that day, the police were nowhere to be found until after the deed was done. Now I'm going to leave it at that on that one. And I already told you that his chief bodyguard, Eugene Roberts, was NYPD undercover under their BOSS program. That's COINTELPRO. Okay, remarks criticized. One factor in Malcolm's break with the black Muslims was his comment on the assassination of President Kennedy. He called it a case of chickens coming home to roost and an outgrowth of violence that whites had used against Negroes. He was suspended by Elijah Muhammad and then started his own movement. Okay. While the Nation of Islam searches for weapons, anyone attending its meetings, Malcolm's new movement emphasized self-defense even with weapons. And so there was no search of anyone at yesterday's rally, a regular Sunday affair of Malcolm's organization of Afro-American unity. White persons were barred, and that's a lie, because we interviewed a white witness of Malcolm X's assassination, and it's in our archives. We interviewed a white witness who he was friendly with. See, that's there's gonna be some other mistakes to come up in this article by the New York Times. Everybody think the New York Times is above reproach. The venerable New York Times, they're never wrong. But I'm showing y'all they lied about that part, that white persons were barred. There were white people that witnessed Malcolm's assassination. I interviewed one of those guys. He saw the shooters. Matter of fact, when he went to testify, went to tell the police officers what he saw at a police station, one of the shooters that he saw walked out smoking a cigarette. And so when they asked him in so many words, what did he know or see, he said he can't remember shit. He can't recall. Because how would he feel if you saw a person who walked down the aisle with the double-barrel shotgun or whatever and blow away one of your friends, all of a sudden he walks out the police station with no handcuffs on, just smoking a cigarette. And the same guy that he allegedly saw walking out that police station years later was featured in a Cory Booker political ad. I think when Cory Booker was running for mayor of Newark, or either when he was running for the U.S. Senate, he shook hands with a guy that people identified, like Dr. Manny Marable before he died. They identified this man as being the shotgun guy who got Malcolm X back in the day. And from my understanding, he ended up marrying the former wife of Hurricane Reuben Carter, the boxer that Denzel Washington played in the movie Hurricane. It was a pretty good movie. But I believe he married his wife, his former wife, who from my understanding is very well connected in New Jersey. That she's very well respected and connected. So I'm not saying that you look all that up, online. Take a look. It's all online. So this is what you're dealing with here. And I'm also saying allegedly, so don't say that Brother Ron said that so-so did this. I didn't even say the guy now. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But we did interview a white witness to Malcolm X's murder or crucifixion or assassination. So there was white people there. And they say that he turned down requests for protection. Malcolm X, from my understanding, 2 weeks before he died, he contacted the State Department saying that his life was in danger. He contacted the State Department. Read the Malcolm X diary that came out recently. I think Third World Press published it, and Sister Ilyasha Shabazz, Malcolm's daughter, was a part of it with Herb Boyd, the respected journalist. They helped publish Malcolm's diary. He talked about white men following him around on his trips to Africa and whatnot. You know, he got food poisoning several times. He had to get his stomach pumped or he would have died. Malcolm was under a lot of scrutiny the last years and weeks of his life. If you're saying the Nation of Islam killed Malcolm, does the Nation of Islam have the power to deny Malcolm passage to another country? Malcolm had a speaking engagement in France, but he was not allowed to enter France because the authorities of France was warned by some other authorities or some other people that Malcolm was going to be assassinated soon. And do you really want him to be assassinated in France? So they would not let Malcolm into France. So he had to go back to England and come back to the States, where they assassinated him in New York City. By the way, the National Secretary for the Nation of Islam, John Ali, was FBI. He controlled the correspondence between Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad. This is nothing new. So it troubles me in the Black Panther movie that you see the king of Wakanda, the Black Panther himself, being cozy and friendly with the CIA agent, with the colonizer. You know what I'm saying? If you know about the history, they're saying that the Black Panther is based on Patrice Lumumba and that Wakanda is based on the Congo. You know that the Congo has a viable mineral resource called coltan. I believe it's coltan. If I'm wrong, correct me please in the chat room. But coltan is what is used to put in technology like our cell phones. And they didn't want Patrice Lumumba and his indigenous fellow citizens to control that mineral resource. You think about what King Leopold did to the Congo. King Leopold makes Hitler like Gandhi, excuse me. He makes Adolf Hitler look like Gandhi, what King Leopold did to the Congo for the blood diamonds. He mutilated and massacred millions of Africans for that blood diamond. So this is what we're dealing with. And the CIA, along with the Belgians, assassinated Patrice Lumumba. They cut his body up to bits and pieces and put it in an acid vat. So there would be nothing left for him to be mourned by his fellow countrymen and women, and for them to rally around for revolution. You know. So CIA has a history of destabilizing legitimate sovereign nations. You go back to the 1950s with Iran. Iran had a democratically elected government. They were the example of democracy in the Middle East. And then they got the idea we want to control our oil resources. And BP, British Petroleum, said, hell no, you ain't controlling nothing, boy. So the CIA and British intelligence got together with BP to overthrow a legitimate government. And this is why we got Iran the way it is now. Same thing with North Korea. During the Korean War, the Americans used biological warfare against the North Koreans. So it's funny that everybody else knows about what the CIA does to government except for Americans. We don't study our history. Like these movies that are being made, a lot of these movies are being funded by the Department of Defense, the CIA, U.S. intelligence. They control a lot of the movie scripts and whatnot. They control the news media. You got to think about it. So the biggest military contractors like Westinghouse and General Electric, they control the news. And a lot of consultants on these news shows are people from the U.S. Intelligence Committee. It is what it is. But I'm saying, you look at the movie, at the end was very disappointing. Because Wakanda was able to survive that long by being unknown, by being hidden, by being invisible, by being perceived as being poor, impoverished. And for him, T'Challa, as y'all call him, Black Panther, for him to say, I'm going to share this with the United Nations, that was a mistake. He made a Mansa Musa mistake. He made a Mansa Musa mistake. Mansa Musa got in trouble when he started sharing the wealth. I mean, I know it sounds bad to say, but when he started showing they had all bling, all gold, everything, we don't even know what happened to Mansa Musa. Once he started showing the people what he had in terms of gold, he disappeared. They killed him. They got rid of him. They Patrice Lumumba him. They destroyed his body. So we don't know what happened to Mansa Musa, who was arguably the wealthiest man or person who ever lived. And isn't it ironic that Michael B. Jordan, who played llMonger, and Ryan Coogler are now working on trying to raise money or get resources together to make a biopic about Mansa Musa. See, I need to check out who Mansa Musa was. And let me read the rest of this obituary. So-called, I mean, it's really a character. This is like a character assassination. Let me get through this the best I can. I know it's taking up a lot of time, but I didn't do anything for Malcolm X. And also, February 24th marks the 53rd anniversary of the assassination of one of Malcolm X's most important collaborators at the end, a guy named DePinto, who was a Kenyan freedom fighter from India and also a journalist. He worked with Malcolm and helped Malcolm understand the importance of trying the of charging the United States of America of genocide and human rights violations of African Americans, and to bring that discussion, that argument before the United Nations. That was Malcolm X's plan. He wanted to bring the United States up on charges of human rights violations against black people in America. And he was helped in this idea by Kenyan freedom fighter DePinto. And DePinto, on February 24th, 1965, was assassinated in front of his daughter. Just like Malcolm was assassinated in front of his family, he was assassinated in front of his daughter. And he was about 38 years old. So when you remember Malcolm, remember why he died. Not always how he died, but why he died. I'm going to skip all this part, because I don't have the time to really. Y'all seen Malcolm X movie, the Spike Lee thing. I'm reading towards the end. This is why you can't trust what you read all the time. You can't believe everything you read. According to the police, Malcolm, his wife Betty, and their 4 children moved last week into the Teresa Hotel, 185th Street and 7th Avenue, and then into the New York Hilton Hotel, Avenue of the Americas and 53rd Street. They checked out at noon yesterday, the police said. The couple was married in January 1958 in Lansing, Michigan. The children are Attila, I believe that, Attila, Kibla, excuse me for pronouncing it, and Lumumba, whose name is Patrice Lumumba. 5 months. Attila was 6. Kibla was 4. Like I said, Lumumba was 5 months. All daughters. And Ilyasha, a son, was 2. They basically said Malcolm X only had daughters. His wife was pregnant with twins when he was assassinated. He never had a son, but they called one of his daughters a son. This is New York Times. February 22nd, 1965. They said Ilyasha was a son and that she was 2. Come on now. How did they get that wrong? And y'all trust these news people, these white news organizations, to tell your story, and they said that Malcolm had a son and he had nothing but daughters. The widow held a brief press conference last night at George's Supper Club She said her husband had received telephone calls at the Hilton Saturday night and yesterday morning saying he had better wake up before it's too late. Malcolm's widow, who stayed at an undisclosed site in Elmhurst under police protection last night, was not questioned by the police on the killing. Now they're giving people protection after the fact. They gave the alleged assassin protection. They gave his widow protection, but Malcolm had no protection. He was dead by the time she got her protection. Okay, Assemblyman Sutton, the family lawyer, said Malcolm X died broke without even an insurance policy. Every penny that he received from books, magazine articles, and so on was assigned to the black Muslims before he broke with them, and after that to the Muslim Mosque Incorporated, the sect Malcolm set up at the Teresa Hotel. Extra policemen were on duty in Harlem and Upper Manhattan yesterday and last night. At 7:15 p.m., the police left the ballroom. 3 cleaning women scrubbed blood off the stage, and overturned chairs were cleared away. Now I'm going to read this part again, and I'm going to read the last part on this again. I want y'all to understand what happened 53 years ago and what people thought of Malcolm X 53 years ago. And this was written in the New York Times. At 7:15 p.m., the police left the ballroom. 3 cleaning women scrubbed blood off the stage, and overturned chairs were cleared away. Musical instruments were placed on the stage, and a dance sponsored by the Metro Associates of 230 Tompkins Avenue, Brooklyn, went on as scheduled at 11 p.m. You mean to tell me one of the most iconic figures in black history, in American history, in world history, at the scene of the crime where he was crucified before his family, folks had the nerve on the same day to have a dance? They contaminated the crime scene for a damn dance. I just want y'all to understand that. You see what I'm saying? Like, even when Dr. King, when he was assassinated in Memphis, one of the first things they did was clean up the blood from the balcony and then cut down the trees where folks thought they heard the shots came from, or the shot came from. They killed Dr. King. So I just want to get y'all here. I mean, this is available online. This Malcolm X obituary from the New York Times. And you saw how they say he was a bearded extremist or something like that. And now he's considered an American hero. He's quoted like Patrick Henry. When Patrick Henry said, "Give me liberty or give me death," Malcolm says, "By any means necessary." What's more American than that? Now he's an American hero, but yet people call him a bearded extremist. He died broke. You gotta understand, Malcolm X's widow, Betty Shabazz, sold the rights to his movie, to his life story, back in '72, I believe, to a Hollywood producer named Marvin Worth. So whatever Spike Lee did, it took 20 years for that to happen. So people think that this stuff happened right away, but the widow sold the rights of Malcolm's life story to a Hollywood producer named Marvin Worth, I believe, for just $125,000 back in 1972. That Malcolm X movie has made hundreds of millions of dollars worldwide since it debuted back in 1992. The family is not getting any of that. If she sold the movie rights back in 1972 for just $125,000, that movie made well over that, you know, and many times over. So this is why it's so important that we fight for our right to tell our stories, our intellectual property. You see how the New York Times got it wrong about Malcolm X. Even say he had a son when he didn't have a son. Now Malcolm X did have a grandson, Malcolm Shabazz, who died unfortunately way too young at 28 under questionable circumstances back in May of 2013. And I know I titled this, I said llMonger is the son, a grandson of Malcolm. And here's the thing. Malcolm was in a documentary produced by Mike Wallace, and also it featured Louis Lomax, the unsung black journalist. You said the mic volume is too loud. Clipping. Yeah, his grandson was murdering in Mexico, and then I remember when that happened, they kept on changing the different locations in Mexico. First it was Tijuana, then it was Mexico City. Some people was arrested. They had, and let me see, reach out some of y'all things. 'Cause I'm trying to get into Black Panther. He ain't talking about Black Panther. Watch news. I was reading y'all comments right now. But anyway, Malcolm was in a documentary that was produced by Mike Wallace of 60 Minutes fame called The Hate Produced, which came out, I believe, in 1959, and it featured Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam. And basically, it featured them to a mainstream audience. So, white folks was very afraid of these people, like these black people, because, they wasn't really showing any black people on TV back then. You had Amos and Andy, and that was a comedy show. Amos and Andy were characters invented by white men, back in the day, during the early days of radio, from my understanding. But, that really was the only show on. And then you had Dr. King with the Montgomery bus boycott. They were successful, 381-day Montgomery bus boycott. He got on TV a little bit. But then you have this group of angry black people that scared the hell out of white America, brought to you by Mike Wallace and company. And it's all online. You can see the actual documentary that introduced the world to Malcolm X, formerly Malcolm Little, formerly Detroit Red. And like Malcolm said, to paraphrase him, the media is the most powerful entity on the planet because it influences and controls the minds of the masses. So when you allow somebody else to tell your story about your struggles, your triumphs, your tragedies, then you basically are marginalizing yourself and making yourself invisible as well as compliant in the self-destruction of your people. So we got to do better than that. And that's why it's so important to support platforms like what I'm doing here. But what I'm saying, thank you so much. Like grateful. I received that mic check too, because right now, man, I've been on the road. I just came from Atlanta. I drove 6 hours from Atlanta, but I think it was important to do this show because I had some thoughts on my mind. And you look at what happened to Malcolm X's grandson the last year of his life, and you look what happened to llMonger in the movie, how they cared to assassinate these guys. First of all, Malcolm could identify with llMonger. Both of these guys were highly intelligent human beings. They've been screwed over by the system. Malcolm was orphaned early because of the system. His father, who was a proud black man from Georgia, a preacher, a Garveyite, was murdered by Klansmen up in Lansing, Michigan. They killed him and put him on the railroad tracks and acted like it was a suicide or that he did it himself. His mother was committed to an institution. So he was orphaned like llMonger was when his father was killed by the king of Wakanda. And we don't even know who his American mother was. She was absent in the movie. So he was orphaned. He was betrayed by Africa like a lot of our ancestors were. Like some of the Africans didn't know what they were doing when they sold our people to the white man. They thought, I don't know what they were thinking. But every civilization had a form of slavery somehow. Like, you had wars, tribal wars. But when you fought these wars in Africa, eventually the people that conquer you will allow you to become a part of their civilization or society or culture. But this Western form of slavery was a different animal altogether. So who's to say what they knew or didn't know, how bad it was going to be on our people? But llMonger is like Malcolm. He's abandoned. And the system abandoned him, makes him an orphan. Highly intelligent, but unlike llMonger, Malcolm was not encouraged in his academic pursuits. You know, if you read the autobiography or look at the movie, he was head of his class. He was the smartest person in the room. He was the president of his class. And his 8th grade white English teacher told him that, Malcolm, niggers can't be lawyers. Be a carpenter like Jesus. So they let you know right then that Jesus is black. Because he told him to be a carpenter like Jesus. And y'all trying to figure out, is Jesus white or black? Jesus is black. How else could he have among the Egyptians? But that's another story. But Malcolm, he lost all that early and was discouraged. And they called him Satan or the devil in prison because he was angry. Because he realized that this system was not made for the benefit of black people. And he was at a crossroads. And it was no Minister Baines. Mr. Baines is a made-up composite character in the Malcolm X movie. That's why you can't trust the movies. You got to do some research. His brothers and sisters brought him, or his brothers and his sister, brought him to the Nation of Islam. It was a family affair. Elijah Muhammad was from Georgia. Malcolm's father was from Georgia. And my understanding, Malcolm and Elijah Muhammad are related. I talked to Malcolm X's nephew, and he broke it down on our show a couple of times about the relationship between Elijah Muhammad family and Malcolm X's family. They're blood relatives, from my understanding. So what they said, you could say Malcolm was a part of black royalty in a way, and that he was denied the throne. Malcolm was going to be the leader of the nation, or was set on being the leader, or it looked like he was to become the leader of the nation, because Elijah Muhammad was at one point was sick, was gravely ill at one point. Although he outlived Malcolm by, when did Elijah Muhammad pass? It was in like 75 or something like that, in the 70s. And they say it sounds staticky. Well, I'm doing backup recording, so we'll see. I gotta listen to it afterwards, so if it sounds staticky, I'll just reload or upload again. But I'm doing back recordings on it. But anyway, Malcolm was going to be the leader of the nation. Though what people thought, because he was the #1 minister of the nation, he helped grow the nation. He helped grow it. And he grew it. He made it from a small cult to like a nationwide force. So Malcolm was hitting the road. Like Dick Gregory would be gone a lot from his family. Malcolm was gone a lot from his young family, doing work on the nation. And I read the obituary where he said he died broke. He didn't even have life insurance. That's why it was so important for him to write those books, or write that book, the autobiography of Malcolm X, with Alex Haley. Because he didn't even have life insurance for his family. He died broke. They were burnt out their home, and they were living in hotels. So you look at all this, and it's llMonger. He was abandoned by his own people. He was betrayed by his own people, like Malcolm was betrayed by his people. Malcolm was betrayed by the nation. Malcolm, and think about it, people betrayed him in the nation. People he brought into the nation betrayed him. His brothers even chose the nation over him. The day that Malcolm got killed, I believe that was Founders or Savior's Day, or near that time, and his brother did a speech. One of his brothers did a speech during Savior's Day, around the time Malcolm was killed. So man, it's deep. It's deep. I just want to bring that aspect up, because Malcolm was fascinating. Malcolm had a relationship with the continent, with the motherland. He was one of the first people over here stateside to protest the killing of Patrice Lumumba. One of the first people stateside to do that. So I don't know any problems now. But also he was one of the first people outside of the motherland that was allowed to sit in on organization of African unity meetings. Yeah, he was one of the first outsiders. But what he trying to do, he was trying to build a relationship with the motherland, so that African Americans or Black Americans or Negroes at that time, or colored people, can have a connecting with the motherland. Because he knew this was going to be a global fight, that this capitalism system was a global fight, and that we need supporters and people that backed us and we could back them as well.
Hey everybody, had to do a reboot, and it happens. That's the beauty of live. Anything can happen. So that's very interesting. I got to really look what happened and go back to what the hell happened with that last broadcast. Like I said, the show must go on, and guess the ancestors was trying to get me back on track with what needs to be done, and so I ain't mad at them for that. So I'm back on. We're back on again, and hopefully we keep the momentum going with no problems. I hope I'm coming in loud and clear. And I think I'll talk about a Malcolm X, and he was in line. Actually, he was being positioned to take over the Nation of Islam, and a lot of folks didn't like that. Even though he helped a lot of folks in the nation to get spots within the nation, he actually grew the Nation of Islam. He went from just a little small cult to like a nationwide presence, so much so that Thurgood Marshall, a lot of y'all don't understand who Thurgood Marshall was. He was a brilliant legal mind, but also he was an informant for the FBI. He didn't really think of people like the Malcolm X and Nation of Islam on his level. He actually doing a police chief convention in New York City back in 1959. He called a group of the nation's police police chiefs into his hotel room to tell them that the Nation of Islam was a threat to America. And he used to, he was an FBI informant. He gave information directly to J. Edgar Hoover on whomever. Well, he became a U.S. Supreme Court justice. But it is what it is. It's history. Just like somebody in the chat said that Alice Haley did not write Roots. My understanding is that he was sued. Him and his publishing company was sued by Dr. Harold Corlander, a white man who wrote the book called The African, which came out in 1967. And actually, the character of Kunta Kinte borrows heavily. He borrows heavily from that book, The African. And they had to give money to Dr. Harold Corlander. It's back in the 1970s. It was an actual court case involving Alice Haley. I know Baba Dick Gregory said that Murray Fisher, the editor for Playboy, actually wrote the autobiography for Malcolm X. As you all know or may not know, that book came out after Malcolm passing. But let's talk about, I like Ryan Coogler. I like Ryan Coogler. I like his movies, Fruitvale Station, that talks about what happened to Oscar Grant. New Year's Day 2009. Creed was a good movie. That was a good movie. And this was a great movie. And think about all the black directors and people that came before Ryan Coogler. They never had access to a $200 million budget. Imagine if Spike Lee had access to a $200 million budget to direct a film. You got to remember when the Malcolm X movie came out, like I said, the widow, Betty Shabazz, she sold the rights to Malcolm X's life story to a white Hollywood producer named Marvin Worth for, I think, around $125,000. This is back in 1972, but it took them 20 years to actually make the movie based on that life story. And Spike Lee had to go to his well-known and famous rich entertainment friends like Bill Cosby, Oprah Winfrey, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Janet Jackson, and some others gave him the money in order to finish making Malcolm X. I don't know. I think it cost, don't quote me on this, I don't know. Let's do the research. It might have cost $25 million to make Malcolm X, but he had to raise that money outside of the Hollywood studio in order to get that movie made. So really it was a miracle that the Malcolm X movie starring Denzel got made at all. But he had to call upon his Hollywood friends. So imagine when we're talking 26 years later that a black director a young one at that, you know, like think about John Singleton, Boys in the Hood. A young one at that, having access to a $200 million budget. And not only that, the soundtrack was, you know, is number one. Kendrick Lamar got all this gifted, young black and gifted talent around. It makes you wonder about some things. Like, what if Gordon Parks had $200 million budget? What if Oscar Michelle had a $200 million budget? What if John Singleton, as I mentioned Spike Lee. Name all the black directors that came before. What if they had access to a $200 million budget? What stories could have been told? You remember, like, when Danny Glover wanted to do a movie about the Haitian Revolution? I know Tariq Nasheed did 1804. I haven't seen it yet. I look forward to seeing it. But think about Danny Glover wanted to do a live action movie based on the Haitian Revolution. This has been years in the making. He even went down to Venezuela and tried to get Hugo Chavez people behind this. But yeah, he could not raise the money. But when it came time for a fictional black character to be made, $200 million was available. But also, I thought it was interesting that Samuel Jackson, you know, the highest grossing actor of all time, and also a very important part of the Marvel universe as Nick Fury, excuse me, it's late, Nick Fury, he campaigned to get into this movie, but they didn't want him in the movie. I mean, this would have been just another, you know, notch on Samuel Jackson's belt, proving once again he's bankable. But I think he knew the importance of this movie, that you need to have a character like a Nick Fury in it, but yet instead they put this white CIA agent that the king was too friendly with. If you look at the history of Africa, the CIA has not been too kind to Africa, not for the benefit of the motherland, because their priorities lie with the colonizers, with American interests, with the imperialist interests. You think about America, when we fight a war, we never leave. We create military bases at places where we fight at. So really, we like an empire, to be honest with you. Like I said, go back and read some of the work of General Smedley Butler, the most decorated Marine in U.S. military history. And he talks about how he thought he was a patriot, but he was actually being used as a gangster, a racketeer, to create banana republics around the world so that these multinational corporations can enjoy. Or read the book Confessions of an Economic Hitman, which came out, you know, in the last 20-something years. I think they got a documentary on that as well. So you can just check that out on your own. And I hope I'm coming in loud and clear for you guys. Okay, yeah, thank you. I'm glad y'all can hear me. You said 1804 Grand Swing History. 1804 was very good, better than what the History Channel has recently produced. But the point is, why do the white folks stuff got to be the standard? You know, why are they the standard when we are the creators and teachers of civilization? If we are the original people, why do we look at our children as being the standard bearers for what we got to do? All right, great. I'm glad it's coming loud and clear. Probably have to smash this stuff up, but it's the price you pay when you are doing this work. I believe I'm doing my God work, but it's a price you pay for that. But what's interesting is, like, everywhere I go, people they familiar with my face or my voice or something they have benefited from. So this is actually what keeps me going, to know that the work that I have been doing have been reaching people and has been a benefit to people. Even when I went to Dick Gregory exhibit, I met folks who knew my work and knew me and were very appreciative of the work and what I have contributed and what I continue to contribute. So it's important to support the people that's actually doing the work, because, like, what I'm doing is I'm leaving crumbs out there for y'all to pick up and do whatever you want to at your leisure. But, like, you can follow up on what I'm saying. Just don't take my word that's the gospel truth. I just want to offer a different perspective on what I've seen with the Black Panther, and, like, really the way the black folks came out to support the movie. Like I said, Memphis was the #1 market for Black Panther, and Memphis is a majority black city. And what you look at Black Panther, it speaks of black folks' yearnings and hopes and dreams and aspirations Because what you had 100 years ago, what was happening in America for black people 100 years ago? You had Marcus Garvey, Back to Africa movement. And Marcus Garvey was a visionary. He was very prophetic, but he never been to Africa. He never set foot in Africa. You know, think about it. He painted this picture of a majestic place, and he never set foot in Africa. But yet he was profoundly one of the most, he was the greatest mass leader of last century for black people, of the diaspora. He had millions of black folks following him, believing in what he was saying. And 100 years later, we get this fantastic treatment of Afrofuturism with Black Panther. And also, I want to point out some things too, because people say, well, is this realistic? Some of the portrayals, especially some of the positive images or some of the powerful images of women in the movie. And there is historical basis for the women guards of King T'Challa, or Black Panther T'Challa. But they call them, they're based on real life women warriors from Africa. We know about Queen Nzinga, but also there are the homies women warriors. They call them the Amazons. You remember like what they said about Wonder Woman to come from the Amazons, but the Amazons are really black. And there's a great article on the Smithsonian website about the homies women warriors. And I'm going to post it. Maybe this will post. I think last time what happened was that the lines were too long. Like there was I had too many characters. That's why I wouldn't post last time. But let me post this article about the homies women warriors. Like I said, I'm going to share this to my social media feeds after the show, as I got to listen back to the audio and footage. Because what's the good of doing anything if y'all can't hear or understand what I'm saying? Let me post that article here in the chat. Yeah, and I think I'll read a little bit of that so y'all know that, you know, fantasy is based in reality. Think about the science fiction writer Arthur C. Clarke, Space Odyssey 2001. A lot of things he spoke of or was shown in the movie has come to pass. Think about Ray Bradbury. Think about a lot of, George, what was it, H.G. Wells, the science fiction writer from England. War of the Worlds, stuff like that. I mean, you got to have imagination before you could do anything. You got to have imagination. You got to have a vision. You got to have an idea. And then you manifest the idea. You know, the imagination is important to creating the vision. So before you could do anything, you got to visualize it as being, to manifest it. You know, so science fiction is very important, but Afrofuturism is powerful. Let me see. Try to read a little bit about this, the homie warriors, the female warriors. Very impressive. They took on the French. And the French really had a lot of regard, just like the French took on the Haitians. But these women warriors were something else. They would, you know, hunt down elephants and everything. Let's see. Let's try to read through this. But I posted a Smithsonian article in the chat room. Let's see. Recruiting women into the Dahomean army was not especially difficult, despite the requirement to climb thorn hedges and risk life and limb in battle. Most West African women lived lives of forced drudgery. Gizos or Jezos, that's the king of Dahomey. Female troops lived in his compound and were kept well supplied with tobacco, alcohol, and slaves, as many as 50 to each warrior, according to the noted traveler Sir Richard Burton, who visited Dahomey in the 1860s. And when the Amazons walked out of the palace, notes Alpern, they were preceded by a slave girl carrying a bell. The sound told every male to get out of their path, retire a certain distance, and look the other way. To even touch these women meant death. Oh, they were some gangsters, boy. Let me see something. It was cold blooded. Cold blooded. Let me see. The aspect of the Dahomean military custom that attracted the most attention from European visitors, however, was insensitivity training, exposing unblooded troops to death. At one annual ceremony, new recruits of both sexes were required to mount a platform 16 feet high, pick up baskets containing bound and gagged prisoners of war, and hurl them over the parapet to a baying mob below. There are also accounts of female soldiers being ordered to carry out executions. Jean Bayol, a French naval officer who visited Abomey, I guess that's the capital of Dahomey, in December of 1889, watched as a teenage recruit, a girl named Naniska, who had not yet killed anyone, was tested. Brought before a young prisoner who sat bound in a basket, she walked jauntily up to, swung her sword 3 times with both hands, and then calmly cut the last flesh that attached the head to the trunk. She then squeezed the blood off her weapon and swallowed it. Wow. It was this fierceness that most unnerved Western observers, and indeed the homies' African enemies. Not everyone agreed on the quality of the Dahomeans' military preparation or preparedness. European observers were disdainful of the way in which the women handled their ancient flintlock muskets, most firing from the hip rather than aiming from the shoulder. But even the French agreed that they excelled at hand-to-hand combat and handled admirably. So, I mean, they're saying this about females, black women, fighting in hand-to-hand combat, decapitating people with swords. This black women in Africa in the late 19th century from Dahomey. And there's all in that Smithsonian article. I just want to give you a taste of what happened. See what the French say about them overall. Oh man, I need to read this. The French took on wars with the Dahomeans, and they had to fight the women. They were like some of the best of the best. Let me see. In the uneasy peace that followed, Ben Hunzing, that's the last king, I guess, did his best to equip his army with more modern weapons, but the Dahomeans were still no match for the large French force that was assembled to complete the conquest 2 years later. The 7-week war was fought even more fiercely than the first. There were 23 separate battles, and once again, female troops were in the vanguard of Bihazan's forces. The women were the last to surrender, and even then, at least according to a rumor coming in the French army occupation, the survivors took their revenge on the French by covertly substituting themselves for the Dahomean women who were taken into the enemy stockade. Each allowed herself to be seduced by French officers, waiting for him to fall asleep and then cut his throat with his own bayonet. Man, these are warriors to the end. It said, each allowed herself to be seduced by a French officer, waited for him to fall asleep, and then cut his throat with his own bayonet. So these people actually existed, these women warriors, the Dahomean Amazons. And I ain't gonna read the whole thing, but to get the idea that Black history is greater than science fiction. llMonger, yeah. He was like the son of, yeah, does y'all remember some years ago? when the FBI tried to utilize one of Malcolm's daughters to kill Farrakhan. Y'all remember that? And then they had a meeting at the Apollo Theater, Minister Farrakhan. It's right before the Million Man March, the original one. And so Farrakhan met with Betty Shabazz, the widow of Malcolm X, and her family to squash this whole thing. You know, he didn't want nothing to come to the sister. But boyfriend was a white Jewish guy who was, you know, with the FBI. He was an FBI informant. So he was trying to get her to kill the minister because of what he allegedly did to her father. So like in the movie Black Panther, the King T'Challa, he's befriending the CIA. He's trusting somebody whose job it is to disrupt other people, governments, in order to benefit his masters. You know, in order to serve his masters. So you look at all that, and also you look what happened to Malcolm Shabazz, Malcolm's real son, and how he was betrayed and set up for assassination. He was just 28 years young, but he was following the footsteps of his grandfather, brother Malcolm X. And you look at, you know, llMonger, like I said, with Malcolm X, the Malcolm X, he was made an orphan by the system, and so was llMonger. And both these guys were brilliant minds, like llMonger with the MIT. Malcolm X was the most popular lecturer and debater during this time period at Harvard University. Harvard University loved Malcolm X to come in and do debates or lecture. He was very popular among the students at Harvard University, which is in Boston or Cambridge, whatever you want to say, which is near MIT, which is also in Massachusetts. So a lot of these guys, they were, you know, products of the institutions. llMonger being MIT, Malcolm being the prison colony up in Massachusetts. But they were, you know, they Ivy League educated, you know, brilliant spokesperson for their cause, but they believe in revolution. Malcolm says by any means necessary. llMonger did any means necessary to try to get his goal of securing the crown of Wakanda, but also to liberate people living in third world conditions around the world, people that look like him. So he was a revolutionary child of Malcolm, just like the Black Panther Party for self-defense was a revolutionary child of Malcolm. They were the sons and daughters of Malcolm. Like, you know, Minister Huey P. Newton said that if Malcolm had lived, they would have been following Malcolm X. They would not had never formed the Black Panther Party for self-defense. But what people don't understand, the mainstream media is really confusing folks on the real narrative of the Black Panther Party, just like they're confusing people on the real narrative of Black Lives Matter. There are actually two versions of Black Lives Matter. It's like there are two versions of the Black Panther Party. You had the Black Panther Party, the political party that was started in Lowndes County, Alabama, when they were taking on the white roosters down there to empower politically the disenfranchised Black folks down in Lowndes County, Alabama. They came before the Black Panther Party for self-defense out in Oakland, California. It started in Alabama. You know, also the Black Panther comic book character makes his debut in 1966, just like the Black Panther Party for self-defense made their debut, excuse me, in 1966 out in Oakland, California. Now, I talked to elders and stuff who were involved in the original Black Panther Party in Lowndes County. And, you know, it's interesting. And I would advise everybody out there that's listening to this right now, talk to the old people in your family. Talk to the so-called elders in your family, especially those that people kind of consider kind of strange or odd because they have led interesting lives. I met a sister recently. Her great aunt was Rosa Parks. And Rosa Parks passed when she was 19. But, you know, she didn't know the significance really of who a great aunt was. Not because she didn't care. She talked to her as a regular family member, but it was not made, the importance was not stressed in understanding her great aunt's contribution to American life, to world history. So she didn't get a chance to really have those in-depth conversations with Sister Rosa like she could have if she knew who she was talking to, who she was related to, her significance was to the history and the narrative of this country. And we make the mistake because we don't think that we have enough to offer, because we want this system to value us when this system job is to devalue you so that they can control you. The system wants to devalue you and your contribution and your ancestors and your current living people, because if you don't feel a certain type of way, they cannot utilize you for things that does not benefit you. That's why it's so hard for Black people to build generational wealth in this system, because we are demoralized, we dehumanize, and we're made to not really do our best work when it comes to us manifesting what we want to manifest. We spend most of our lives trying to do things for other folks and try to, champion their causes. But when it comes time to try to champion our causes, we realize too late what we want, and then the other folks don't want to help. And then whatever you had of use that could have been of use to your cause, by that time you too tired and you too burnt out, you too this and that to do anything for yourself. That's not only going to benefit yourself, it's going to benefit your people and future generations of your people. So this system disenfranchises the majority of the people living in the world. Malcolm understood this. llMonger understood this. Malcolm was meeting with revolutionaries like Che Guevara and Fidel Castro at the Hotel Teresa, at the Teresa Hotel in Harlem. You know what I'm saying? He was having dialogue with Africans, head of states, and ambassadors and diplomats. You had ambassadors from Africa quoting Malcolm X in the floor of the UN. Malcolm was allowed access to sit in on the Organization of African Unity meetings, which he based his organization of Afro-American Unity on. And it is what it is. Said we lost a lot of women support in the feminist movement. Why is that? Because the feminist movement is blueprints from the civil rights movement. But what made the civil rights movement strong at its peak was when we had the real trinity involved: the Black man, woman, and child. When you had it for Black liberation, see, everybody used the Black liberation blueprint for their own gains, whether it be the feminists, whether it be LGBTQ community, whether it be the so-called illegal immigrants community. Everybody have used the blueprint that we helped pioneer and establish for their own gains, because what people got to understand is that Black people are the universal people of the universe. When you do things to help Black people, it automatically helps everybody else, because we're basically like if the original people are people of color, then you can understand how I can help all of humanity. When you support us, you support all of humanity. Just like the idea of affirmative action supposed to have been for those who have descended from enslaved Africans to try to get some equity in a system that has denied equality. Affirmative action is supposed to have been a way to get equity in a system that denied a certain group of people historically equality. Black folks want equality without equity. That means it can't happen like that. You need equity before you have equality, because we're not equal. Because white folks have had access to things that we have not had access to for generations. I was in Atlanta at this wonderful meeting of the minds, and people talking about how they use their setbacks as triumphs to get what they want in the world. They had a distinguished panel of people talking. We had a distinguished panel of people talking, and this is the day after the birthday of Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, who would have turned 150 years young on Friday, February 23rd. He started his career in activism in Atlanta as a professor at Atlanta, what was then known as Atlanta University. He was a professor. That's when he started really his activism, when he started his scholarship career, his academic career rather. It started in Atlanta. W.E.B. Du Bois. Then February 21st marked the 53rd assassination of Malcolm X. And then you had the movie Black Panther come out. Well, you remember at the end with llMonger, when he was allegedly killed. I don't think llMonger is dead. I actually think I don't think nobody in superhero comic books die anyway. I think that, to me, I would like to see a Killmonger origins feature film. Like, who produced Killmonger? We know his father, but who was his mother? What all the stuff he had to go through to get to the point he became this person, what he ended up becoming in Black Panther. I'd like to see an origin story on Killmonger, like whether it be a feature film or maybe do something on Netflix as part of the Marvel universe. Give him a series like that. Hey, brothers, Chad Factor, how you doing? Welcome to the show. I'm all right, man. Just a little tired, but motivated. Been traveling. Just came back from Atlanta, visiting family and stuff like that. And really, Atlanta is interesting to me because it's like Wakanda. Yeah, he comes back several times in the books, right? So I don't think Killmonger is really dead. You know, because if they're gonna bring the CIA agent back, why did not bring back Killmonger? Hell, you know, if Black Panther is really that compassionate and has empathy and stuff like that, is he really a good person? He surely would try to save his first cousin. You know, I would think so. Because Killmonger was not even evil. People say he's evil and he's demonic. Or how he's evil and demonic? It's like that's what they said about Nat Turner. Shit, that's what they said about Jack Jones. That's what they said about Malcolm X. You read the obituary of the New York Times, bearded extremists. You know, Malcolm X was no different from Patrick Henry when he said, "Give me liberty or give me death." And Malcolm said, "By any means necessary." And a lot of folks still run away from that phrase. Black folks still afraid to say "by any means necessary." That's why I know we're not really serious about revolution. It's like, well, Killmonger, what he was doing was revolutionary suicide. No, bro, I didn't have to. Hey, I went to Atlanta. I was coming from the East Coast, so I do a lot of driving. And a lot of folks I didn't call when I went to Atlanta, but I'll be back there again because Atlanta showed me something. In particular, the suburbs showed me something. Yeah, we never saw his dead body. Get your magic glasses on. They never really showed Killmonger die, just get stabbed up. We never saw his dead body. In a messed up way, I think the CIA agent kind of saved the world. Yeah, because propaganda. It's not messed up. That's what they want you to think. That's why they had him in that hero role. They want you to think the CIA is a good organization that's meant to save the world. Well, what about Iran Contra stuff? What about flooding the inner cities with crack? Who world did they really save? What benefit was it to flood the inner cities with crack cocaine? Think about it. It's been proven they did that. You got Gary Webb's Dark Alliance. You can still Google that online. Robert Perry, who just passed, he was a fantastic investigative journalist. Did a lot of work into the Iran Contra thing. What you kind of find out is that when you live in a world where people think it's okay to even have lesser evil empowered, these are the results you get. When people think it's okay to have even lesser evils empowered, you get these type of results. Because nobody's really good or bad. See, all the people that's saying that Killmonger is bad, what about the presidents that send drones and blow up people at weddings? What about presidents ordering people who are American citizens, instead of them getting a trial by a jury of their peers, a jury of their peers, excuse me, they get blown up by drones. He just called Barack Obama the drone ranger. He killed so many people with drones. He didn't do it himself, but he had ordered, his administration. So, for people to say that Killmonger was a government assassin. JSOC, CIA, you know how the CIA agent said we trained him? That was like a badge of honor for him to say that. Yeah, we made the monster. Remember what I said about Malcolm X when Mike Wallace did that documentary about Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam, the hate that hate produced? Y'all want to call Malcolm X a hate monger, but look what y'all did to Malcolm X all his life. Look what they did to black people. And you got to learn, why you calling white people devils? Well, look what y'all done to us. We came out the South because y'all was killing us. We had to leave our family, our land behind, left our identity behind. You stole that from us. So, you think you got the right to say we hateful when y'all did these things to us? This system is the Dr. Frankenstein, and the people that feel slighted by the system are the monsters. But who's the real monster? Is it Frankenstein or is it Dr. Frankenstein that's the monster? Killmonger's a bad man. He said the Panther had the right to be king. Maybe so. I mean, it's not unusual for siblings and blood relatives to kill each other for the crown. Look at what Cleopatra did to her brother. You go all over. Look, and people make the case for Princess Di being killed by elements in the British crown. I ain't gonna say who, but people make cases for that. So I mean, my thing is this: I can't say Killmonger is a bad person. I think Killmonger represents the cognitive dissonance that African Americans feel about their relationship with the motherland, about their relationship to the world. I think Killmonger represents that double consciousness that Du Bois talk about in Souls of Black Folks. We have such a schizophrenic nature when it comes to America. We're American, but we're not treated like citizens of America. Yeah, Killmonger just wanted action. He was just misguided. I don't think he was misguided. He was trained by them. The CIA, like the dude said, we train them. This is what we do. We destroy, resources of a country, do this and that. Killmonger was right on track. It's just that we can't deal with that type of stuff. A lot of Black folks can't deal with that stuff because, we got this thing about we just basically like we are all Stockholm syndrome victims. We identify with our oppressor too much. We sick boss. We cold boss. Like Malcolm said, we identify with the folks who are hurting us the most. We can't let them go. Even when it comes time for us to be liberated, we rather be enslaved than to be liberated, because liberation is not a form. If you talking about real freedom, there's no security in real freedom. That's why it's freedom. Bane Man killed his girlfriend and other Wakandans who disagree with him. If he got his way, millions of his own people would have died. Stalin killed millions of his own people to create the Soviet Union. Had he not did that, would they have been able to defeat the Germans in World War II? I mean, y'all like nobody supposed to die when you build a nation. Look at the history of this country. America's history is a gangster rap album. All that violence and genocide and rape and pillaging. Y'all think George Washington cats were clean? You think they were not doing immoral stuff? Because war, like Colin Powell was on Meet the Press some years ago. Colin Powell, I won't call him Colin. Colin Powell was on Meet the Press. He said, when you do war, you call out civilization. In war, there are no rules. The only thing is to win by any means necessary. Killmonger was at war with the imperialists, at the colonizers. And a lot of times, the people you gotta fight before you can fight your real enemies are people that look like you, that have been programmed by your enemies. So your enemies will send people that look like you, that have been programmed by them to try to stop you from doing what you need to do. And we getting all sentimental and stuff, but this is the thing. A lot of us are willing to go to places that we can't even spell or name or pronounce to kill people that we don't know. But yet we can't protect grandma from getting her house eminent domain. We can't protect our sons and daughters from being molested by their teachers or by the priests. And we got the nerves to talk about, we okay going to places we can't even find on the globe or pronounce the names of, and killing folks we don't know. And yet when we come home, we can't protect our own people and our assets. And then the same folks that they label an enemy over there, they become your boss over here. The same people they label enemies over there, they become the folks you buy your groceries from over here, that you buy your gas from over here. So what fool are you? She was willing to be sacrificed. That's revolutionary suicide. When you know that you might be killed at any moment, but like Dr. King said, if a man ain't willing to die for anything, he ain't fit to live. Dr. King said that, and he was a man of peace. Yeah, they killed Patton though, because they know what they was doing. Don't you know? Look up Operation Paperclip and what the Vatican was doing. The Vatican was, connected to the Nazis, man, and they was moving the Nazis through the CIA and NASA. Patton was right. He said, take those German POWs. We could utilize them. We go through Russia. They didn't want to do that. That was not part of the world plan. The leaders had another idea, and that's why they murdered Patton. Patton, as messed up as he was a patriot. Yep, they got him too. Cause he thought he was fighting. See, like I go back to Smedley Butler. Smedley Butler was brainwashed. He won 2 Congressional Medal of Honors. He was a decorated Marine, but he found out that they was utilizing him not for patriotism, not to protect your freedoms and liberties at home, but to build businesses for multinational corporations. So if llMonger want to take over your house and your country, will you let him for the betterment? Y'all let the banks take over our house and country. Y'all talking about one black man? Will we let the banks take over our house and our country? I just got through talking about eminent domain. llMonger can't eminent domain your shit. The government can. And give you only market value for shit you paid for all your life. You pay mortgage on your house. You pay the taxes. And they can eminent domain your shit at any time, at any point, and pay you only fair market value. Get the fuck. I mean, y'all keep on talking like llMonger. He ain't the boogeyman. The system's the boogeyman, damn it. Nah, the banks already took over because we got the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve not even federal, man. You know, Abraham Lincoln went to the banks. They want to charge all this high interest on loans to fight the Civil War. He said, "The hell with that. I'm gonna print my greenbacks." And then they killed them because the currency thing. Anytime you mess with their money, that's when they kill you. Dr. King got killed because he was fucking with their money. He didn't get killed because he wanted to sit next to white boys and girls at the restaurants where he couldn't afford to even get the damn hamburger, or he wanted to go to school or be their next door neighbor. He got killed when he started talking about redistributing the wealth and ending the war in Vietnam. They had to let him get that shot in the face. Yeah, the Federal Reserve is privately owned, man. How you think Woodrow Wilson got into office? Google Jekyll Allen and Federal Reserve. When they had that meeting, Jekyll Allen, the Allen near Georgia, off of Georgia coast. Yeah, J.P. Morgan, the Rothschild representatives, and Nelson Aldrich, the senator from Rhode Island, whose son married into the Rockefeller family. They devised a plan to create the Federal Reserve. They went to Woodrow Wilson, who wanted to be president, and they told him, and Woodrow Wilson said, "Look, if you make me president, I'll make the Federal Reserve law." And what they did was they brought in Teddy Roosevelt to split the Republican vote, kind of how Ted Kennedy messed up Jimmy Carter back in 79, 80. They brought him in to split the vote. And so Woodrow Wilson was able to get in because they split the Republican vote. Because William Howard Taft was very popular. He would have won the election, and they would not, he didn't want no Federal Reserve. Yeah, his folks are part of Skull and Bones, but he wasn't for the Federal Reserve. Matter of fact, William Howard Taft later became a Supreme Court justice. You had a president who becomes a U.S. Supreme Court justice, and he loves that job more than being president. Yeah, the IRS was created through the creation of the Federal Reserve. All this happened in 1913, and Woodrow Wilson said that was the worst mistake he made of his presidency by agreeing, making that Faustian deal to create the Federal Reserve to become president. He couldn't get his League of Nations approved. Yeah, he was a traitor. He used the black vote. He manipulated the black vote. He got all them black leaders to vote, get the black folks to vote for Woodrow Wilson. He's the next coming to Lincoln. And this man went to school with Thomas Dixon, who wrote The Klansman, a book which is the basis for Birth of a Nation. We saw the reemergence of the Klan. This guy resegregated the federal government. How is he the savior of black people? That's why William Monroe Trotter called him out on his shit at the White House. William Monroe Trotter was the first black Phi Beta Kappa at Harvard University. He was a journalist. He had The Guardian in Boston, but also he was co-founder of the NAACP. He didn't really care for the NAACP. He was suspected. He suspected the NAACP of not being first and foremost for black folks, but he confronted Woodrow Wilson in the White House and told him to his face he was a liar and a cheat, and he betrayed the trust of black people. And Woodrow Wilson had William Monroe Trotter banned from the White House. The term federal was thrown in to make it sound official. Okay, yeah. There you go. It's like if Jay-Z and Beyonce had a daughter or a son, they call him Federal Reserve Carter. Don't make him federal because they name him federal. Don't make him government. So that's the issue. The same thing with Kennedy. He was trying to get the currency to be printed through the Secretary of Treasury. They shot him in the head, just like it did Lincoln. They tried to kill Andrew Jackson in the White House. He took on the central banks and beat their ass. Yeah, Woodrow. I mean, he was a politician, man. Our politicians use people, and they utilize, they use people, man. Politicians nothing but puppets, man. They actors. They just actors in government. Like they know better than actors in Hollywood. You know, off to the highest bidder. Thank you. I appreciate it. I try to be, but I thank y'all for taking the patience to listen. I'm glad it's coming through because the devil is a lie. The devil's a lie. The devil's a lie. But getting back to Killmonger, Killmonger is not an evil person. If you look at, y'all should read Eldridge Cleaver's Soul on Ice. I'm sure Eric Killmonger read Eldridge Cleaver's Soul on Ice. I would suggest all y'all read that. And also what I would say too, when you look at the Black Panther movie, compare it to the Underground series show that John Legend produced on WB. I wish it made it to a third season. So is Noah and all them guys, like, it's a character in there. I forgot his name. He's like a Uncle Tom. And when I mean Uncle Tom, I mean the Dick Gregory version of what Uncle Tom is. Or he a shapeshifter, right? You think he portrays some of the slaves, but he's about survival. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Yeah, Killmonger was like an Eldridge Cleaver to me. He was like an Eldridge Cleaver. Because some people believe that Eldridge was an agent. You know, it's like complex character Eldridge Cleaver was. Like how he treated his women. He was known for being abusive towards women. I guess you could say Eric Killmonger was abusive towards women. He killed his girlfriend and he choked old girl. But people gotta understand, he was a king and he was in his right, if you think about it, do what he did. You know, people disobeyed him, they questioned his authority. He's a king. You know, back in the day in Europe, to be king was to be a divine figure, to be God. You was considered a god. When you, I mean, ancient Egypt, Pharaoh was God, right? I'm just saying, you're gonna question the Pharaoh, you're gonna question the king. When the king told you to do something, you just should do it. They the rulers. And really that would destroy the well, it's not Peter, Tsar Nicholas and his family with, you know, Anastasia, because Rasputin, like, how could he get so close to a god, you know? And it made them vulnerable and it cost them their lives. He split the Wakandans into two factions, like Elders and the Panthers. So who is so 10 Black Panther, who is he? Is he Huey? Y'all saying Black Panther, Huey P. Newton? T'Challa? And C-Fat said Killmonger was a villain and they would go to war with the whole world, not just white people. He said some of the planes to Hong Kong again. Would anybody let the kingdom be taken over? He wasn't looking for kingdoms. He was looking for justice. He wanted justice. I mean, Huey's T'Challa. Okay. T'Challa's Malcolm X. Okay, I can see that. Because like Huey said, they the sons of Malcolm. I don't know, man. It's like interesting. You look at the comic book heroes. This is what I'm saying was interesting about this stuff. Like Stan Lee and them admit that they based the X-Men off the civil rights movement and stuff. Like Professor X is Dr. King, Martin Luther King, and Magneto is Malcolm X. But even Stan Lee said he don't view Magneto as an evil person. He just view him as somebody who is fighting back after being abused by those folks who, you know, like the humans who took advantage of them. He is advocating for self-defense and protection of your interests. I don't know what's wrong with advocating for self-defense and protection of your people. What's wrong with that when your people has been mistreated? Eldridge was ready to go to war, and Huey wasn't ready to take the Panthers in that direction. That's interesting right there. I like that. Eldridge was ready to go to war. I remember thinking about the Bobby Hutton thing. Y'all familiar with the Bobby Hutton thing? One of the original founders of the Black Panther Party for self-defense. Like, I think 18 years old. Him and Eldridge got in a shootout with the police. And the Eldridge told Bobby Hutton to take off his clothes so they can't say he was reaching for anything. So, you know, Eldridge walked out naked, from my understanding, to get arrested. And Bobby Hutton didn't want to take off his clothes, and they shot him. They tried to justify that he was reaching for something. But this right after Dr. King got assassinated in Memphis. It happened right in April of '68. Yeah, those damn trying, like Spirit of Justice said, let's not trivialize our struggle by comparing it to a silly white credit comic book. But I'm saying the comic books are based, these characters are based on actual black people though. Because they're saying that the Black Panther was based on Patrice Lumumba, the Prime Minister of the Congo, who was assassinated by the CIA and the Belgians. Let me see. Y'all ask some interesting insights and questions here. I'm just trying to read up on it. This is Lakeisha Rankin said, and they continue all these stories from movie to movie. Golden Black says, does the movie Black Panther brings out the ancient bodies that were advocating in the movie? C Factor said, Wakanda is isolationist nation and only attack if people attack them. The same goes with the Black Panther Party concept. llMonger was trying to rule everything. Well, here's the thing. The Wakandas to me are like cowards. I'm be honest with you, because if they had that type of advanced weaponry and technology, they could have stopped the transatlantic slave trade. They could have stopped a lot of things. The carving up of Africa by the Europeans. They could have stopped King Leopold. They could have prevented World War One. They could have did a lot of things to help the world. And for people to act like llMonger was such an evil guy, I mean, think about it. Like what his father was trying to do to help black people. And it looks bad, but you had Che Guevara, who was a medical doctor who was going around killing people for revolution. I mean, he took that oath, you know, not to do any harm, but yet when he became a revolutionary, he was willing to kill to heal the world. He was willing to go whatever it takes. Like he said himself, make one too many Vietnams. Make them all. You know, if you don't understand the history of the Vietnam War, really, Ho Chi Minh was trying to convince Woodrow Wilson to acknowledge his country as an independent nation like the United States. He tried to meet with Woodrow Wilson post World War One, the Treaty of Versailles. He was over there in Paris trying to meet with Woodrow Wilson, and Woodrow Wilson wouldn't meet with him. Ho Chi Minh used to come to America to listen to Marcus Garvey speak in Harlem. He had a lot of respect for Marcus Garvey and UNIA. You know what I'm saying? Like Marcus Garvey to me was a superhero because this man had millions of black folks listening to him around the world. This guy had people thinking about Africa 100 years ago, and yet he never stepped foot on the continent. It's like people thinking about Africa now with this Black Panther movie 100 years later. Think about that. You got folks making fun of people like they got news stories about people trying to book flights to Wakanda and stuff. Like Wakanda is black folks' heaven. Sister Lakeisha, let me see. I'm trying to read y'all comments. Sean Henry says, I feel like you have to have a nation that is unified first for there to be similarities. Wakanda is like one fist. I cannot say we've shown anything similar for an extended period. But Wakanda was allowed to develop. Imagine if Haiti was allowed to develop after beating the French. If they were not fucked over by the colonizers, if they were allowed to be on their own, isolated, to create their government. Imagine if America lost Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and Benjamin Franklin, if they were captured or assassinated right at the beginning of the creation of the republic. Where will America be? You know, black folks, I mean, sometimes we got to give ourselves a little bit more credit than what we give ourselves. Sometimes we got to be more considerate in our historical situation. Spirit of Justice said, them black women in the movie rolled out the red carpet for the CIA agent. Yeah, the black women got to take responsibility for that one. And the king of Wakanda, who had no problem. I mean, I ain't going to say he had no problem. T'Challa actually reminds me of a black Hamlet, but he wasn't as bad as Hamlet because Hamlet was too damn indecisive. He did make some moves, but my thing is I was not impressed because, you know, did he kill any white people in the movie? He couldn't even kill Claw. Claw came in there, blew up some stuff, killed people, and he didn't do anything about it. He couldn't even. I mean, it took llMonger to bring in Claw, and llMonger had to sacrifice his girlfriend to do it, and he was willing to do that because he saw the bigger thing at play. When I look at the Black Panther, T'Challa, as y'all call, I think you call him that. It reminds me of that argument that people used to make about LeBron James and Kobe Bryant, where you have LeBron James was considered soft. I mean, LeBron James is one of the all-time greats. We know better now, but you know, like LeBron was this and that. Kobe was a killer. He had killer instinct. Even if he missed his shot, he took his shots. He was willing to take his shots. LeBron was all about, let's have a good teamwork. Let me pass the ball first and think about shooting later. That's how I look at them. I look at llMonger being Kobe in his prime, Kobe Bryant, and I look at LeBron. I mean, I look at the Black Panthers being LeBron on the rise. We all know LeBron got that instinct, but you know that's how they portrayed him. Okay, Stan Lord said, if we don't create history in this world, if we don't create history in this world, the European would not survive. Interesting. C Factor. Wait, man, they never asked the white CIA agent for help. Okay, Stan Lord said, our reality is the Caucasian's mythology. Oh, that's deep right there. Our reality is the Caucasian's mythology. Wow. True, Son Henry said. There was enough meddling to keep us crippled. Black Wall Street and such. Okay, I'm just catching up. Yeah, that's another thing. If we're going to talk about economics, black folks keep on talking about the key to liberation for black folks is economics. If you can't protect your assets, if you cannot protect your assets, what make you think that you're going to have any economics to save you? See, we're not even serious about the situation we're in now. We so fucking out of it that we gotta zone into a comic book movie in order to feel empowered. We are so not trying to face our reality that we gotta zone out on comic books. Like, why are we having the discussion? This discussion is so deep because we can't talk the way we want to talk in reality. So we gotta talk within the lines of comic books and the Marvel universe in order to really express how we feel about our reality that we can't even come to grips with, really. We got to have our reality in 3D and 4D and shit, and we got to talk within the confines of comic book talk in order to really articulate the real pain we feel out in this world. llMonger ain't no different than the folks who created and sustained this system. It's all at the end of the day about survival. For them, it's about survival and also about thriving. It's like I went to this panel discussion meeting in Atlanta, and I really enjoyed Atlanta this weekend. I see why I get it now. After all these times I've been down there, I finally get why black folks love Atlanta. Because in Atlanta, black folks still got hope. Black folks still got hope in Atlanta. They can still make things. You feel like you still can live a certain quality of life. You can make things happen in Atlanta. Whereas a lot of places you get roadblocked and obstructed by sometimes people that even look like you. But down there, people are more acclimating to helping you if you got something going on. So I get why Atlanta is, but at the same time, that's probably the closest thing we have to a Wakanda. For better or for worse, Atlanta is the closest thing we have to a Wakanda for us in this country. But for better or for worse. But what I'm saying is, people got this fantasy that we could build these economic powerhouse without protecting our interests. I mean, you got to go there. You got to be willing to fight for what you want. You got to be willing to die for what you want. You got to be willing to protect your interests. Because we the only group of people that we're going to pray it away. You can't pray that away. You can't pray everything. You got to pray with action too. No, but we want to escape from that reality. Like I look at Wakanda, like when Prince T'Challa want to share all this wealth, like Mansa Musa with the world, and the world gonna do something with that. United States ain't gonna play nice with him when it comes to that vibranium. you know, other entities in the world among the colonizers ain't gonna play nice with him when it comes to that vibranium. They're gonna use people like him to look. I mean, gonna use people to look like him to manipulate him to undermine him. Just like we talk about Mobutu. Mobutu was the tool of the colonizers. Mobutu was the tool of the colonizers, but he was a dear friend. At first, he was a friend and supporter of Patrice Lumumba. Patrice Lumumba trusted him with his life. He let him lead the military. And if you look at their playbook, the best way to do a coup d'etat is through the military. Use the military to overthrow the governments. This is what they do. And they install a dictatorship, sometimes a military dictatorship. Why can't I hate llMonger in the system? We have hope, not just Atlanta, but the Atlanta suburbs. Yeah, I was in the suburbs, man. I was in Sandy Springs. That's what I'm talking about. It's not just Atlanta. I mean, I'm not even talking about the city. I'm talking about the suburbs. You got black folks doing their thing, man. They got their own little thing going on. Look how they throw Korea in the movie. Yeah, that was very fascinating, man. I'm telling you, man, the government, look at the movie that came out 20 years ago called Wag the Dog. I'm keep on saying that. Look at that movie, Wag the Dog. Look at it. Wag the Dog. And the basis is about the president was involved in some type of, I think, sex scandal. And so his advisors hired a top-notch Hollywood producer played by Dustin Hoffman to create a phony war. It's all bread and circuses. It's all about distraction. That the Black Panther was a psyops project. And I like the movie, but I got to be critical of the movie too. But it was a psyops project. Just like I told y'all before, and y'all can find this on your own. The Beatles was a psyops project. There was a project that was created by the Tavistock Institute over in Great Britain. They were brought to America after the Kennedy assassination to get the mind, the country's mind off the Kennedy assassination. Because truth be told, a lot of Americans were not buying the fact that Lee Harvey Oswald was a lone gunman. They was not buying it. And so the Beatles, they came over in 1964 to get the nation's mind off the Kennedy assassination, and also to hook the nation's youth on to the drug culture. Listen to Hey Jude. Hey Jude is about heroin. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. LSD. Lucy, Sky, Diamonds. LSD. And the reason why we know this as well, because Baba Dick Gregory was the spiritual guru of John Lennon and Yoko Ono. They requested him personally to get them off of drugs. He helped them detox while they was over in Europe living in their cave mansion. And Dick Gregory inspired John Lennon to write the song Imagine. We're talking about peace and love all over the world. But John Lennon realized that he would be manipulated by his masters in order to pervert the youth. And he didn't want no parts of it anymore. He didn't want to be a useful idiot. And so he tried to use his music for good, and they killed him. Yeah, I was down on that. I heard about the missing CDC work. I don't know what's up with that, but people go missing all the time. It's just like in D.C., Washington, D.C., there's a lot of people that go missing around the Washington, D.C. police headquarters. Washington, D.C. got cameras everywhere. It's crazy. Any thoughts regarding Jacob Zuma taking African land back with no compensation? I'm not really too familiar with that, brother Sean Henry. You got to enlighten me. But with Robert Mugabe, people paint him as a villain. And all he did was make sure the British, they did not respect the agreement they had with Robert Mugabe. They promised him at a certain time period that the lands will be relegated back to the indigenous people of Zimbabwe, and they didn't honor their side of the contract. And so Robert Mugabe did what he had to do. Hey Jude was about heroin. It's about heroin. You can say that it's about that too, but it was like, just look at John Lennon, the Tavistock Institute, Beatles. Let me type that in the Beatles Tavistock. I'm gonna type it in the chat. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm dragging on. I don't know if I'm making any type of sense, but I just There's a type in no words, see what pops up. And John Lennon, see who you find. So what I'm trying to do is help y'all understand how to do y'all research, man, and put on your own magic glasses if you're not afraid to put them on. They're there for you. Like, Caroline, don't be afraid, Caroline. Put on the magic glasses, Caroline. You know, it's and also too, Black Panther, because there's so much stuff in there. There's so much stuff in there. Thanks, brother C Factor. I appreciate you listening, man. We got to do some catching up. But the rhinoceros, people say, why they need rhinoceros? You know, because they got vibranium. But you know, they were paying homage to not Mansa Musa, but Hannibal. You know how Hannibal used elephants to take on the Roman Empire? He crossed the Alps with them damn elephants. That's another black man from Carthage, from Africa. But they want to make him white. They want to make him Middle Eastern. They want to make him anything but a black man. But Hannibal, there was an ode to Hannibal. And also, there was an ode to Bill Pickett, the rodeo legend. Like, you saw how Black Panther then was riding those rhinoceros? They were paying homage to Bill Pickett. To Bill Pickett. Y'all know who Bill Pickett is? He developed a technique of called bulldogging, how to take down a bull by the horns. But what he would do, he would be riding his horse alongside the bull. He'll jump on the back of the bull and grab the bull by the horns. In some way, he'll get his mouth around to the bull mouth and he'll pull on the bull's upper lip. He'll actually bite the bull's upper lip. I mean, he was a small black dude, but this man was strong. He'll bite the bull's upper lip to bring it down. He'll control the horns while he's biting the lip of the bull at the same time to bring it down. So he created that. He created that. You just got up for work. Man, I'm going overtime. But let me read some about Bill Pickett right quick so I can understand what I'm talking about. He was inducted to the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. Posthumously, he was dead. He actually died by getting kicked in the head by a horse, you know, while he was working on a ranch back in 1932. Let me see. Find anything about Bill Pickett and read it right quick for y'all. William Bill Pickett was a legendary cowboy from Taylor, Texas, of black and Indian descent. He was born December 5th, 1870, at the Jenks Branch community on the Travis County line. He died April 2nd, 1932, near Ponca City, Oklahoma. From 1905 to 1931, the Miller Brothers one-on-one Ranch Wild West show was one of the great shows in the tradition begun by William F. Buffalo Bill Cody in 1883. The one-on-one ranch show introduced bulldogging, or steer wrestling as is known today, where they wrestle the cattle or the bull, an exciting rodeo event invented by Bill Pickett, one of the show's stars. Riding his horse Spratly, Pickett came along a longhorn steer, dropped to the steer's head, twisted its head towards the sky, bit its upper lip to get full control. Cow dogs of the bulldog breed were known to bite the lips of cattle to subdue them. That's how Pickett's technique got the name bulldogging. As the event became more popular among rodeo cowboys, the lip biting became increasingly less popular until it disappeared from steer wrestling altogether. Bill Pickett, however, became an immortal rodeo cowboy, and his fame has grown since his death. See, he was kind of like he's to steer wrestling what Jimi Hendrix was to the electric guitar. And the sad thing about it is the white boys, they adopted his technique, but they would not allow him to participate in many of the rodeo competitions. Had he were he allowed to do so, he would have owned a lot of the records that they took for granted. So he was even segregated in an event that he actually something that he invented. He could not even participate in some of the top events in the field of his expertise because of the color of his skin. That's crazy. Yeah, Jimmy was something else. He was the GOAT. The expropriation of land without compensation is envisaged as one of the measures that we will use to accelerate redistribution of land to Black South Africans. That was 6 days ago by the new president of South Africa, Cheryl. Is it Cheryl or Cheryl Ramaphosa? I hope I said it right. Okay, we'll see what happened. Sean Henry, you think that's going to happen though? I mean, what do you think going to happen? You think they're going to honor their word? I mean, that's some tough talk. As I said before, our reality is their mythology. Bill Pickett, the cowboy. You're right, but they don't want you to know about him. Just like the Lone Ranger is based on a Black U.S. Marshal named Bass Reeves. He was probably the greatest U.S. Marshal of all time, and he's the basis for the Lone Ranger. But how many of us know about Bass Reeves? They are claiming to hold his feet to the fire and not speak. Like, we'll see, because talk is cheap right now, man. Because Black folks cannot build generational wealth without assets and access to things like intellectual property. Think about the descendants of the guy who showed Jack Daniels how to make that liquor or that alcohol that people like. You think Jack Daniels' family gonna share that with the Black family, with the descendants of the man who actually showed them how to do that? You know, a lot of times with Black people, we just satisfied with being recognized by white people. We just want to be recognized. We don't want no compensation. We don't want no justice, just to recognize. Because we always consider invisible until they need our help. Oh, y'all very arrogant. Sister Lakeisha said Ramaphosa has terrible worker assassination history, massacres at Americana mine workers. Okay, so see, each one teach one. I'm learning something new from y'all. So everybody pay attention. Let's research what's going on in the chat room. That's very important. That's very important. And that's why I said this Black Panther movie is a form of propaganda, but all works of art can be considered propaganda to advance certain ideas and whatnot. And so just be critical of what you consume and what you look at and watch. I like the movie. I saw it twice. I was going to pay money to see it twice before I ever saw it on a Fire Stick. Okay, Stan Lord said we need schools with our curriculum. These stories you are sharing should be a required class. Excuse, I'm sorry. I'm just getting tired. We know, I just said earlier that school is not where you learn who you are. You learn that at home. We got to do a better job at, we need home schools. We need, because the parents are the first teachers of the child. We need to really think about homeschools. There are Black people that are doing homeschools, and their kids are excelling at amazing rates. You know what I'm saying? We can't depend, like Malcolm X said. One of my favorite Malcolm X quotes is that only a fool will allow their enemies to be the primary educators of their children. And so Black folks have been foolish. Like I hear all the time, why they not teaching this? Why they not teaching them this at school? Why in the hell they gonna teach them that at school? Did they teach you that at school? Why do you assume that they're gonna teach your son and daughter what they did not teach you at school? Why should they? Think about who they are getting to teach children now in school. A lot of people are young and inexperienced and not qualified to teach our children. They barely know anything else. They just know. I'm just saying, I ain't not gonna teach for America, but don't you find it odd that the least experienced people are given the hardest assignments? What they gonna do? We got to teach this information. We got to understand the importance of talking to the elders and doing our own research. We got to understand the importance of that, because you got to have confidence in yourself. And in order to have confidence in yourself, you got to have knowledge of self. So yeah, you got to learn that. Yeah, we can try, but we got to do. Forget about trying. Just do it and see what happens. They, who is they? We got to reclaim our narrative. Forget about they. What are we doing? What are we doing? There you go. I mean, like right now, I mean, we on this talking. This technology is wonderful, but they might take this away. They could take this away anytime. So what do we have to go on in order to remain strong? I mean, integration was a downfall of black schools. You know, some of the best high schools in the country during Jim Crow were black high schools. I met folks who went to all black high schools. They were able to compete any place in the world, like HBCUs. Like Dick Gregory had it right. If you name the top 100 black people this country ever produced, many of them would have held backgrounds in HBCUs. Du Bois, Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, who's really an intellectual giant. He is the father of American sociology. Before he went to Harvard University or Harvard, he went to Fisk University down in Nashville. This is the father of American sociology, probably the greatest intellectual we ever produced. And people give Du Bois a hard time about what he did to undermine Marcus Garvey. He realized what he did was a mistake decades later. He realized what he did was wrong. You know what I'm saying? He did a lot of things that were great. He did a lot of things that were great. You know, we can't, and people talk about the talented tip. The talented tip, I'm gonna say the talented tip would have worked if the head was not disconnected from the body. This system knows what it does. White power is divide and conquer. They separated the head from the body. So instead of our best going to black supported institutions and coming back to the black community, the white folks took them away and put them in white institutions and alienated them from their people. So once they got through using them, they were no good to their people. The C Factor, Thomas Sowell, and many black conservatives talk about how black schools were shut down because of integration and how forced integration does not cure racism, but add more racism. It does not cure racism. Racism is systemic, and forcing people to like each other ain't gonna cure it. Forcing people to like each other ain't gonna cure it. I mean, all leadership is really elitist. You think about it. It's elitism to a certain point. You got to have standards. Yeah, I don't think we should have standards in leadership and education in certain things. You think everybody gonna be able to play basketball like LeBron James and Kobe Bryant? They elite. What's wrong being elite in what you do well? I know what you're saying. Malcolm was brilliant. Malcolm was unique. You know what I'm saying? Brilliant brother, insightful. But all black folks couldn't get with Malcolm. We need all types of diversity in leadership approaches. Like, I don't believe that people should put anybody on a pedestal. Not even me, not nobody, not Malcolm, nobody, because they're just human. But what you should learn is from their example of what they was able to leave behind and do. Like, I talked to A. Peter Bailey a couple of times on my show. A. Peter Bailey was an activist who worked with Malcolm X on his organization for Afro-American Unity. He was there that day when Malcolm X got assassinated in the Audubon Ballroom. He was also one of Malcolm X's pallbearers. Malcolm had a lot of respect for A. Peter Bailey. No, he was no Muslim, but he believed in what Malcolm was trying to do and what he was saying, what he was trying to do for our people. And like he said, Malcolm was a master teacher, man. Like, even though he was young, people forget that Malcolm was just 39 years old when he passed away. But Malcolm was brilliant, because what he would do to get ready for debates, for example, he would lock himself up in the People's Bookstore that Mashal cat owned up in Harlem. He would allow Malcolm to stay overnight in his bookstore to do his research. He had people around him like John Henry Clark, historians, brilliant intellectuals that was helping him understand black people role in world history and what we need to do as a people to move forward. But in order to prepare for debates, he would lock himself up overnight in a bookstore. This is before internet. Imagine what Malcolm would be doing if he had access to the internet, if they had social media, what the things they would be doing in order to counteract what this y'all call it white supremacy, I call it white inferiority system, and this racism. It's said that at a time like this, we need black media, and black media really is non-existent. It doesn't matter anymore. Black media does not matter, because black media is more concerned about celebrity than it is about reality. Black media is more concerned about celebrity than reality. And we need a dose of reality right now. We too much into Wakanda. Wakanda cannot happen without bloodshed. Y'all want y'all Wakanda? You know, white folks Jews got a Wakanda. It's called Israel. Jews got a Wakanda. They got a Wakanda. It's called Israel. But also Israel got a fierce military. They got to protect their interests. They got to protect their assets. Regardless of what you may feel about Israel, they know they got to have a strong military. They got to have strong militaristic allies like Big Brother USA. Yeah, bread and crumbs, bread and circuses. Those Caesar said, give them bread and circuses. I have not seen the Jackson Civil Rights Museum, Jackson, Mississippi Civil Rights Museum yet. I plan on seeing it probably in April, around the time of the Dr. King assassination. So we got a project we're working on, and we all be MLK 50 the day after. We're gonna be dealing with the civil rights movement and what happened to Dr. King 50 years ago, and we'll talk about some stuff that I talk about on We All Be all the time. Y'all can go through the archives. I got a playlist of Dr. King related material, and hopefully it's getting through to the people. I don't know, and we'll see. But it's funny. It's amazing to me that I go places around the country and people know who I am. They recognize my face, or they recognize my voice, or they just talk about the work I've done with Dick Gregory or Judge Joe Brown. But it's the information is getting out there. That's a beautiful thing about it. Sometimes you could think you working in vain, or you working in isolation, but to be able to go to DC and Atlanta or New York or LA and people recognize what you're doing is very humbling. So that makes let you know that you got an obligation to do the work. Like Dick Gregory told me, you got to feed the people. You got to feed our people. They thirsty, they hungry for knowledge. So I do what I can, and hopefully what I said today is resonating some type of way, because I know I said a lot. And well, Malcolm X's grandson, I want to show you what happened to him, his biological grandson, Malcolm Shabazz, because they killed brother Malcolm Shabazz the same year that movie came out on Lifetime that talks about, that fictionalized the relationship between Betty Shabazz, the widow of Malcolm X, and Coretta Scott King, the widow of Dr. King. They did this fictionalized account of their relationship on Lifetime movie, where Mary J. Blige played Betty Shabazz, and Angela Bassett played Sister Coretta. Angela Bassett played everybody, basically. She like her and Chadwick Boseman, they like Mr. and Mrs. Black History biopics and stuff. But anyway, I want to say this. In the movie, they showed the scene where Malcolm's grandson, Malcolm Shabazz, allegedly set the apartment on fire that ended up, killing his grandmother, Betty Shabazz. And around this time when the movie came out, I remember I talked to Bobby Dick Gregory, and he said they were setting somebody up to get killed. You look at how they portrayed Farrakhan. And Malcolm X's grandson was young at the time, but it made him like he was much older in the movie. I don't think he was barely but 12 years old when his grandma died tragically. But Dick Gregory had his own take, of course, on what happened that night. And I found out that brother Malcolm Shabazz actually heard the Dick Gregory interview I did about what happened to his grandmother, and he talked about him as well. And he actually posted that interview on his website before he died. He wrote a long social media post about how he was going to go over to Iran for their Hollywood conference, and talking about, stereotyping of black people in Hollywood movies. And brother Malcolm Shabazz was actually on that path of his grandfather, his famous grandfather, of becoming that leader. But he was cut down at 28. When Malcolm X was 28, he was just getting out of prison, about to do his God work. You know what I'm saying? So it's unfortunate. But if I can find that, but he posted on his website. I tried to reach out to him, but also one of his friends from the Bay, from the town, from Oakland, he shared a Gmail chat he had with brother Malcolm Shabazz. And he was talking about how did Dick Gregory know about the white woman house he went over after his grandma's house caught on fire, or apartment caught on fire. And how you know about Percy Sutton, Malcolm's lawyer, being CIA. Percy Sutton is interesting. He's an icon in the black community, especially up in Harlem, New York. At one point, he owned the world famous Apollo Theater. He also was the lawyer for Malcolm X. So I think Dick claimed that Percy Sutton was CIA. And you look that up, that interview I did with Dick in the WeILB TV archives. But he said that Dick Gregory was the last honest man on the planet. And I shared that Gmail chat with Dick Gregory in one of the shows we did back in 2013. But yeah, brother Malcolm Shabazz, I mean, he was doing that work. He was actually down in Mexico trying to help a friend, or a person he thought was a friend. And really, it was kind of strange is I don't think he should have been down there by himself, which is weird. Said, I have a daughter with Malcolm Shabazz. You don't know about that fire. I didn't say I knew about the fire. I said Dick Gregory knew about the fire. He showed us a perspective about the fire. And Malcolm Shabazz heard what Dick Gregory had to say and posted it on his website. See, I didn't say it. And then one of his friends showed me a Google chat where he called Dick Gregory the last honest man on the planet. And he called, and Dick said that Percy Sutton was CIA. Yeah, I didn't look up the history of Percy. He's a fascinating figure, man. Like, Black history is always stranger than science fiction. Tell you, Ilyasa A.L.L Shabazz wrote about gasoline being on his clothes. Dick didn't know either. I mean, I wasn't there. And if she said what it was, look, the thing about it is, that's why I'm glad people are speaking out and people are listening. Because you got to, provide that narrative. It's Sister Sadia Shabazz. Malcolm shared what Dick said. He also said Percy did. So you saying that what Dick said about Percy was true? That Percy was CIA? That what you saying? Sister Sadia Shabazz? Because, it's a thing. People understand this country is wicked. I have spoken, and when I did, I was attacked. Okay. So Percy was CIA. Okay. Yeah, I just I mean, look, I'm gonna tell y'all the truth, folks. I never thought I'd be doing some of the stuff I'm doing now. I didn't never expect that what I've been doing for the last 11 years I'll be doing. So I'm thanking everybody for contributing to this conversation. So Percy also kept him out of prison. Okay, I mean, y'all should look up Percy Sutton though. I mean, he's a fascinating. He's a Tuskegee Airman. He was an entrepreneur, well-respected civil rights leader up in New York, and was the lawyer for Malcolm X. So people should, do their research and don't let other people tell you what the narrative should be. And we should have an honest dialogue. We got to reclaim the narrative. That's the whole point of why I'm having this show, to talk about the narrative, to talk about Malcolm X, because they shitted on Malcolm X when he died, and now Malcolm X is considered an American hero. Extensive research and Dick time, a lot of this wasn't on paper. Yeah, but Dick was type of dude, he'll spend like $2,000 on newspapers and articles a week to try to get that information, man. And so, like he said, he told me 2 years ago, he said, look, man, the internet and what you doing, what other people is doing, is making my life easier to get the message out. And Sister Sadia Shabazz, he said he was looking at spending his adult life in prison. Percy also helped Betty more than anyone. Okay, I mean, people are complex. It's a complex thing. Humanity is complex. Just like I was pointing out with llMonger. I don't believe llMonger was an evil person. He's more complex. You could maybe consider him an antagonist or a anti-hero. But I could see llMonger in me. I could see, everybody's a potential llMonger. C Factor said, what do you think about what's that? Rustin? You talking Baynard Rushing, or the guy who did the march? I don't know if he was a CIA agent and who murdered Malcolm X's grandson. Well, CIA? I don't know. I mean, that whole thing was strange with Malcolm X's grandson, because like first they say he was killed in Tijuana, was thrown off a building from what I got. Then all of a sudden he's killed in Mexico City outside a bar. The bar had video surveillance, but the video surveillance wasn't available. And Sister Sadia Shabazz said Malcolm Shabazz was two people. Well, we all got, you know, interest and size to us. We all got complexities to us. I would say people are all contradictory. We all got contradictions about ourselves. Doesn't mean you're a hypocrite. Doesn't mean that you're human. To me, a hypocrite is a person who denies they have any complexities or contradictions to them. Bayard Rustin, was he a CIA agent? Well, you know, he organized the March of Washington. They was going to do the March of Washington 20 years earlier, back in 1943. Him and A. Philip Randolph to protest hiring discrimination in the military industry complex when it came to African Americans. But Franklin Roosevelt heeded their demands and changed that. So the March of Washington took place in 1943, ended up taking place in 1963. Sister Sadia Shabazz said no, he was bipolar and schizophrenic. Well, you know, go back to Du Bois. We are dealing with double consciousness. I could say we all are a little bipolar and schizophrenic. Would you say we gotta, like Paul Laurence Dunbar said, we wear the mask? You know, as Black Americans, as people of this diaspora, we have been so traumatized by what they have done to us. Love is contradiction also. Okay, Golden Black. You know, without y'all saying that these side ops ain't no joke, you show enough ain't no joke. You show enough ain't. That's why it's so important that they control the mass media and the entertainment industry. I mean, y'all don't, we don't. A Mexican man that was deported lured him to a bar and he was killed. He was extremely traumatized. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. I mean, you got to think about that family. If you look at his family, Malcolm X's family, read the autobiography. All his uncles died violently. His father was killed in a violent way. He died a violent death. It's like strong Black men are not allowed to exist in that family. You're dealing with a beast they'll kill for generations. They want to kill dynasties. Look at the Kennedys. They will kill for generations. They'll kill men off for generations. There's a lot of beautiful women in the Shabazz family, inside and out, but there's not a lot of men that are prominent like a Malcolm X or Malcolm Shabazz would have been. They kill them all off. This beast is deadly. It's a monster. This machine is a monster. So they also had some people that stand trial for killing Malcolm, right, Sister Sadia? You said he brought the man to my house. I personally asked him to get him out of my house. He chose to leave with him. I never trusted that Mexican. Yeah, it's kind of strange. I mean, I don't know why. It's above my pay grade, of course. I'm not really getting paid nothing, but he should have had some backup with him, or he should have never went. Yes, but not all were arrested. Do you think that Sister Sadia Shabazz, you think that this could involve some collusion with U.S. intelligence or people in government, or you think it was just a isolated incident? Yeah, son, right. I agree. MLK's mother death was suspect too. Yeah, y'all trying to keep me deep down this rabbit hole, man. I just don't know. Y'all trying to go down the rabbit hole, man. Y'all like this video, please. Yeah, she was killed by that Hebrew Israelite who ended up dying in prison maybe in the last 15 years. Sister Sadia Shabazz said he rushed out because he trusted the Mexican. Yes, it was more to the story. Yeah, wow. Well, I think that y'all heard it there, folks. I want to thank y'all for tuning in. I don't know. That case bothered me when I first heard it. Thank you, Lakeisha Rakin, for loving the video. Sadia Shabazz, the Mexican had connections. I believe that because, like, I don't know. I mean, y'all should Google Malcolm Shabazz. There's a lot of stuff to that. The people should be questioned that was around him for allowing him to be put in that situation. It just sounds very suspect. Why was Martin Luther King stabbed? Why was he stabbed? The woman that stabbed him came from Alabama. She was, my understanding, mentally disturbed. And you know what? She died the same weekend as the 50th anniversary of Selma. She died that same weekend back in 2015 up in a old folks home. I think it was in Queens. She was about like 95 years old. Something like her name was Izola Ware Curry or something like that. She stabbed Dr. King at a book sign in Harlem back in the late 50s. But they said that Dr. King's family was watched by the U.S. government for 3 generations, starting with his maternal grandfather. And some people believe that Dr. King was a product of U.S. intelligence. That's another story that I can't talk about. It's above my pay grade. So you saying Saudi or Shabazz Malcolm was manipulated by at least 20 people? Well, I just hope, you know, like what Dick said, I get letters all the time now. People write me letters around the country saying I got a problem going on. They got a lien on my house. I got this going on at the job. I'm a targeted individual. And really, I'm just a person on here trying to create a platform to share ideas, to allow people to speak their minds. I'm not qualified to help nobody on the level that people think I am. I'm just a person who loves his people, that want to connect with his people. But I'm gonna tell y'all what Dick always say, and it's some truth to what he said about that. Dick knew, like his son called him a spiritual trillionaire, because he understand the power of the universal God, and universal power. What I'm saying, y'all should really meditate and pray at noon for what you want. If you want the truth to come out about what happened to Brother Malcolm Shabazz, and you want that spirit of discernment to understand it is the truth when you read or see it, then pray for that at noon. No matter where you're at, pray at noon for what you want. Because, I mean, life can be overwhelming. And I know for me, life is overwhelming because I want to know. And when you want to know, there's responsibility. You got to research. Then once you find out what you know, you got to make a decision. Do I share what I know, or do I keep it to myself? Because there's a price to be paid either way, whether you share or not. You're going to pay a price. It is what it is. Yeah, he did. He's still speaking volumes from the grave, man. Dick ain't dead. You know, I don't say that in a conspiracy theory way. What I'm saying is his spirit is all around. He's omnipresent, man. You turn on the internet, you could get Dick Gregory. I mean, I look at movies and stuff, and somehow Dick Gregory name pop up in the movies, or something that's connected to Dick Gregory pops up. I mean, it's just crazy how his name just pop up at random in certain places. Like you wouldn't even expect his name to be mentioned. But Dick knew what he was doing. Dick lives forever, man. As long as there are people out there with the ears to hear, the mind to think, and the heart to care, Dick Gregory lives on. So, Sister Sadia Shabazz, I want to thank you. So you said, Sister Sadia Shabazz, you said he wasn't ready. He was a new fighter, and people encouraged him to be Malcolm X instead of being himself. And I'm glad you said that. People didn't learn how to be themselves, because I know for me, I'm related to Curtis Mayfield, but I'm not. I'm not Curtis Mayfield. I'm Ron Hurd. I'm my own person. We all got our own voices. I know other people who are related to Malcolm X. They're not trying to do the Malcolm X thing. That's not their God work. That's not their purpose. That's because their blood relatives don't mean they got to walk in Malcolm's shoes and walk on his journey. You got our own journey that the universal God has provided you. You need to learn how to know yourself and keep it moving. Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, because that's a huge shadow, man. Malcolm X. I mean, I know this is his grandfather, but he didn't have to be Malcolm X. He could just be Malcolm. He could have been Malcolm Shabazz and just be the best version of himself he could be, and learn who he was. Yeah, I know about him. I know there's another grandson, but he probably ain't gonna be doing the Malcolm X thing. He got to just live his life, because our people, man, we are so gifted and we so cursed sometimes, because we are so blessed. We get some brilliant people come through our ranks, but sometimes because we're hating ourselves, we so wounded and traumatized, we can't really appreciate the gifts and the blessings that we are. So we need time to heal and medicate. Not medicate, but meditate. Excuse me. Thank you, Sister Lakeisha, for listening, for being a part of the discussion. Sean Wright, was Baba Dick able to help the guy falsely accused of killing Jordan's father? He tried to help him 20-something years ago, and the lawyers for the guy would not allow Dick Gregory to meet with him. You know what's funny about that Jordan daddy case? Even the media at the time did not buy the story of the two young dudes who was joyriding in Michael Jordan's daddy car as being the prime suspects of killing Michael Jordan's daddy. In that county, the sheriff was into drug running. One of his sons was a big time drug trafficker, but he had the blessings of his father, who was the sheriff of the county. You gotta think yourself, why would they cremate Michael Jordan daddy when he had dental records? Think about it. The guy was driving around in a brand new, was it either a Lexus or Mercedes Benz, with the car dealership with Chicago information still attached to the car. And if he had expensive dental work, they knew he wasn't homeless. They could have traced his dental record. They did something to him and they wanted to cover it up. That's why they cremated Michael Jordan's daddy. They knew who he was. They knew who he was. Oh yeah, I'm very much interested in Sadia Shabazz. You just hit me up. weallbe@gmail.com. That's WEALLBE@gmail.com. And we could go from there. And also my phone number is public. So it's 901-299-4355. That's 901-299-4355. And like I said, y'all, thank y'all for listening. Please support the movement. Like I said, you could make a donation, a one-time donation at paypal.com. You could super chat here. You could sign up for the patreon.com and WeAllBe. You could buy art, work. You can buy a lot of stuff. I'm an artist. I'm an artivist. I'm an activist. I'm a friend. I'm a lover. I'm a fighter. I'm a son. I'm a nephew. I'm a grandson. I'm Brother Ron. Thank y'all so much for listening. You do a lot. We see what we can do, man. Like I said, congratulations. Like y'all need to check out the C Factor. Got some great material over on his channel. He just did an interview with the living legend Charles Evers, the big brother of Medgar Evers, who's 95 years young, and he's still sharp and still on point. I love him, man. He just being himself, like the sister Shadia said. Just be yourself. You need to be yourself. You want to be great, be yourself. You want to make a contribution, be yourself. But be true to who you are. To thy own self, be true. So with that said, boys and girls, scholars and laymen, I apologize for the technical difficulties that we have, but we're going to work it out some way. God going to work it out some way. I want y'all, thank y'all for being patient with me and for talking and for returning the favor, for keeping me up and keeping me motivated. And we got the best is yet to come. But I'm going to try to weave these two videos together and see what we come up with. And I hope this came out well. I apologize once again for the technical difficulties, but I want to thank everybody for being patient and for having a very exciting and informative part 2 discussion of MidnITe Black History Madness. llMonger is Malcolm X's grandson. Black Panther movie review 2. So thank you all. In the words of the great Duke Ellington, we love you madly. Keep on producing and pushing. Peace. And greetings, family. I want to just add to this podcast a couple of things I want to add to this podcast. I want to suggest several films and TV shows that should be viewed in addition to the Black Panther Marvel superhero movie. These are The Underground, which ran for 2 seasons and was canceled. I thought it was an interesting show because it empowered the victims, the enslaved Africans. They fought back and it was fighting for freedom. They showed them in a very positive, life-affirming role. Like I said, one of the characters in particular, Kato, has echoes of llMonger. Or Eric llMonger has echoes of Kato. Kato was an interesting, complex character. He was more like a anti-hero or sometime antagonist. But y'all should check out The Underground. The John Legend produced TV show about the Underground Railroad. ran for 2 seasons, and they canceled it right before they're about to go to Harper's Ferry with John Brown. You know, John Brown had them Black Raiders. One of the Black Raiders was, of course, Dangerfield Newby, who was the inspiration for the lead character in Django Unchained. He was the inspiration for that. And okay, Django Unchained, people should look at that movie and compare and contrast it also with the Black Panther movie. Another movie people should look at to compare and contrast with is Goodbye Uncle Tom, the director's cut. We talked about Goodbye Uncle Tom before. It came out during the blaxploitation era. It was a movie that was based on documentary filmmakers going back into time to witness firsthand chattel slavery, the institution of slavery and racism, based on primary resources like diaries, newspaper articles, and journals, and stuff like that. That's, if you could stomach it, it's worth looking at. Let's see what other movies come. The movie Panther that came out in the 90s, which also had Dick Gregory. Like I told y'all before, Dick Gregory was supposed to be in the Black Panther superhero movie, but he had to turn it down because of health reasons. He couldn't travel to a place like Africa. You know, there was just too much much demand on his health. But that would have been interesting. But he starred in the movie Panther that came out in the 90s, which I believe was a Van Peebles production. I think it was Melvin Van Peebles and Mario Van Peebles worked on that, father and son. And that's another interesting. What if Melvin Van Peebles had a $200 million budget? You know, he did Sweetback Badass Revenge, or Badass Song, Sweetback Badass Song, which was a pioneer movie in the blaxploitation genre. It actually opened, you know, ways for other black films to be made, along with, you know, it's funny. You could talk about, we could do a whole podcast about how Sweetback was flipped into Shaft. How, you know, Hollywood pimped the blaxploitation film genre, how it turned it from black liberation film to blaxploitation film. We could actually do an interesting podcast on that. I would consider that. And y'all should look at Sweetback Badass Song, the Melvin Van Peebles foray, because the soundtrack was done by a young unknown group at the time, Earth, Wind and Fire, and we all know who they end up becoming. They actually did the soundtrack on that, so y'all should check that out. And what else I could think of? Y'all should also revisit Malcolm X, the biopic starring Denzel Washington, which he should have won an Oscar for, and compare and contrast that with the Black Panther. And I guess that's y'all homework for this session. I want to thank you all for bearing with me. I apologize once again for the audio issues, but I thank God that I have enough sense to know the value of what I'm doing to do backup recording. So I hope you enjoy this. Share this with your networks. Thank you all for staying up late at night with me to do these important sessions. I believe they're very important because it's us talking about us putting our priorities first and foremost before anything else. And like I said, hopefully I can get the sister on she claimed to be Malcolm Shabazz's girl and baby mama. I hate to say the term baby mama like that, like it's disrespectful. She is the mother of one of his children, and I would love to speak to her about his life and legacy as well. And when I talked about Eric llMonger, I meant no disrespect to the legacy of Malcolm X, but I want y'all to know there's, like, you know, Mike Wallace News documentary, The Hate produced, is that llMonger did not happen in a vacuum, and black folks should not be afraid of that rage that llMonger displayed on the screen, because it really speaks to so many things we went through in this Black American Holocaust experience, and nobody can speak on it. And we got to claim that pain, the descendants of enslaved Africans. We got a right to be heard, because you got people that come over here who are black, who are African, who are, you know, people of color. They want to tell you another narrative. They want to hijack our narrative. I like, there's something wrong with us a lot of times. And that movie displayed the hurt, the disconnect between Africans and so-called African Americans, as if it was our fault that we was kidnapped, that our people allow us to be kidnapped and put into this horrible condition. But thank God we are here. We are here, and it's time for us to reclaim the narrative and to retell the story on our terms. So I hope those movies will help you all on your journey to understand us better. And also, I would throw in Selma, Ava DuVernay's movie, which was historically very inaccurate. As like a lot of movies in Hollywood, they're very inaccurate. And so that should be very, very fascinating. So I want to thank you all. I can't think of anything. I just want to make sure I got the audio correct. And share this video. Support the movement. Like, your donations and support of this movement goes a long way, because it enabled me to create more content, to focus on create more content and information you can use in the long run. So think about making a recurring payment or one-time donation or donation through PayPal, or you can make a recurring payment through our Patreon page, patreon.com/WeAllBe. All that information is available in the subscription box below. And also, you can buy Artivist art and wear Artivist t-shirts featuring Brother Ron's artwork. So I want to thank all the brothers and sisters who've been supporting me in buying art and buying t-shirts. That goes a long way. I don't understand. This thing is growing because of you all participation in it. We all be can't be we all be without us. This is us. This is our movement. This is our time. Someday we all be free. So we're going to get free by getting liberated, by knowing this information to build a foundation for knowledge of self. So like I said, I enjoyed Black Panther. I saw it twice. I'm going to look at it some more times. I probably come out with some more videos and other work dealing with Black Panther. But my thing, I want our people to be critical. You can have a good time and still have your critical eye, your magic glasses on. I mean, you can enjoy the movie and still be critical of some of the things in the movie, like the lack of a Black American women presence, or how they talked about the wig issue in one of the scenes, and really there was a pot shot at Black American women. Where is the Black American woman that produced the Eric Killmonger? I am very much interested in finding out who his mother was and why his father was so attracted to this woman that she had a child by her. What's her situation? Who was she? What's her story? So we got to start putting us back in the narrative. Like Ralph Ellison in Invisible Man, if you don't tell your story, you will always be the marginalized or invisible character in the own telling of your story. So with that said, family, I want to thank you all for supporting once again. I told y'all some movies and TV shows to look at. Also, I got to add 12 Years a Slave in that too. So basically, just look at a whole bunch of black movies, but look at those movies in particular, and let us know what you think. And one more movie I got to add, Rosewood. Revisit Rosewood. That came out about almost 20 years ago. Rosewood, starring Ving Rhames, a tragic incident that actually happened in Florida back in 1923. But you know, John Singleton was able to empower African Americans in spite of the horrible reality of what happened. That's kind of like, you could look at that as being almost like our Schindler's List. You know, the Spielberg movie that came out, Schindler's List. Excuse me, Schindler's List. I think I'm saying it right. I don't know. But if you ask Spielberg which was his most important and favorite movie, I bet he'll say that movie he did that talks about this German hiding Jewish people during the Holocaust and helping them to escape. So in spite of all his blockbuster movies, that movie probably meant to most because it was about his people. These stories he heard from his elders growing up. So Schindler's List, starring Liam Neeson, should be looked at as well. But those, like, just some movies I'm throwing out there. Thank you, family, once again. In the words of Great Duke Ellington, we love you madly. Keep producing and pushing. Peace.